Welcome to the Chapter 62 edition of A Cast on Titan, everybody. Just like last month, we're here to discuss the most recent chapter, and we're going to talk about all this crazy, fucking insane stuff that happened in this chapter. And last chapter, we were thinking, man, Chapter 61 seems so tame. Look how hype Chapter 61 was. Yeah, I meant Chapter 60 was the one where we were like, it was kind of lame. But Chapter 61 ended up being awesome. And now Chapter 62 ended up being even crazier. A different kind of crazy, maybe even. But we'll find out how our impressions go between 61 and 62. So to get started here, let's go ahead and go around and introduce ourselves. Because the lineup is a little bit different tonight. Starting with Scotty.
Hi, I'm Scott, ScottyV23 from the subreddit. And I absolutely loved this chapter.
I said our lineup is a little bit different tonight. Our other person to introduce themselves is our guest for tonight, which is kind of impromptu.
You could say that, yeah.
We've been planning to have this person on for a while, but...
Since a long time ago, yeah.
Quite a while. It's probably been a few months, but we finally got him in. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is... quite a few things, actually. Destiny Reviews, Harvey, or I think I lurk on Reddit sometimes. I'm not very active in the subreddit, but yeah, I made a while ago, 5 months ago, according to my YouTube, a little review of Attack on Titan, roughly a year after it came out, and yeah, it basically progressed from there.
5 months, huh?
Yeah, apparently.
I had no idea I was scouting out people that early. But, geez, that's quite a while ago. Yeah.
Surprising me.
How that came about, basically, is I saw that review, and I went, okay, there was good work put into that. I like the effort, and I like the research, and I like the approach to it. I think that's someone who's demonstrated a good, I don't know how to say it, good insight and good ability to, good understanding for
why thank you.
How they want to approach putting their thoughts out there. I like that. So here we are. So now that we've all introduced ourselves, we can...
You didn't introduce yourself, Stiller.
Oh, I didn't, did I? I guess...
No?
Yeah, okay. I should probably introduce myself, too.
Do please.
Yeah, I'm Stiller3 from the subreddit. I am one of the mods, and I have been very busy with the subreddit the past couple of days. Okay, is that good enough for an introduction for you, Scotty?
Oh, yes it is.
Alright, so now that that's out of the way, we can... Before we move into our impressions, we want to cover that this podcast, if this is your first podcast, is a manga spoiler podcast, which means that we will not be talking about anything except for the newest chapter, and anything related to the newest chapter, which means new theories, anything like that. So if you've only watched the anime, if you've only watched the OVAs...
This is definitely a good place to be.
Yeah, this is the worst place to be.
Yeah, stick around.
No, don't. Don't listen to these guys. I'm the good person here, clearly.
Oh, Stiller's the good person.
That's right.
What kind of upside down world?
I'm the one you should...
Also, if you're waiting for season 2, don't be here. Listen to this then.
Yeah.
So you know everything.
You guys should put your trust in me. I will not steer you away like these guys will.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
Plot twist.
Yeah, somebody's doing a heel turn. Who's it gonna be? Alright, so now's the point of the podcast where we give our impressions of the newest chapter. And Scotty, I think you already went and spoiled it for the good listener.
Oh, I did.
On your part, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Alright, so as I previously said, like a minute ago, I loved this chapter. I liked it because not only the information that was represented in this chapter presented to us, but the way in which it was done. Because he got all of the lengthy talk out of the way in the beginning, which I felt was a little bit, not too lengthy, but it could have been shortened and gotten the same point across. However, it did need to be covered, and I'm glad he got that out of the way in the very beginning of the chapter. And then towards the second half of it, it just picked up with, immediately we see Eren, and he's chained up in this, glowing, icicle-looking area, and then we see Astoria and Rodriguez and all of these people, and then all of a sudden, it goes to flashbacks, and we're just, hit with that right out of the gate. And it's like a surprise, and it's an excitement, and I haven't honestly felt that excitement while reading a chapter of Attack on Titan since, the reveal of the Colossal Titan. Oh, yeah, the reveal of Connie when I finally saw his beautiful face. No,
it's when Connie was introduced.
when Connie was in that camouflage, I was like, oh my god, this is real now. No, but yeah, when Reiner and Bertolt, when they were revealed, that was pretty much the only time when I got that just, oh my god, shock and awe about what happened. And I got that with this chapter as well. So, for all those points, not even accounting for the information, which was awesome, that we got a lot of theories confirmed and whatnot, a lot more theories to go off of, which I don't actually mind this time. So, overall, I really like this chapter.
Yeah, going back to what you said about how it's the biggest reveal of just the way it's been presented since Reiner and Bertolt, I think it's just because Isayama is extremely good at just smacking you in the face with information, just like point blank when you just don't expect it. Because it's right at the end of this chapter, and it's said in such a matter-of-fact way, and the same with Reiner and Bertolt, it was just there. And it was like sort of almost blink and you'll miss it, and it really shocks you because they don't go on for a long time about one point of just a lot of information, at least not when it's a big reveal like this. It's just sort of, it's there, and you're left to think about it for almost a second and just think, wait, did that just happen? Or am I reading this wrong? So it's just sort of, yeah, it's just the way it's put out there in such a matter-of-fact way.
Over the course of the entire show, I think they've been pretty consistent with that, with leaving points open to interpretation and making the reader contemplate for a super long time about some of the questions raised. Now, part of that's because, it's a monthly thing, and the other part of that is, it takes like 10 chapters to reveal anything important.
Yeah.
Scotty, I thought it was interesting that you mentioned that this being the most hyped thing since the reveal of Reiner and Bertolt. I find it interesting that you consider that to be a highlight moment instead of like a super intense action scene. Like I was expecting you were going to say when Reiner and Bertolt actually fought with Eren.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was also pretty hype, but I felt like that hype was kind of thriving off the initial hype of the reveal.
You didn't get hype off of the action scene. You got hype off of the story element.
Yeah, because action, that just happens. However, the reveal is the informative part that actually leads to, the plot continuing. And, I love the plot continuing. I always mention that. But,
Let's not make it sound too basic. Action is action and information is information. This is correct material. We're giving them the raw facts here.
We are.
And, Harv, you mentioned that you liked how Isayama continually presents it in this format where these big reveals get done in a way that's not drawn out. And,
yeah, it's just because it's so short, like in Reiner, when it's revealed that Reiner and Bertolt are their respective titans, it's one panel and one speech bubble, and they just say it, and then there are a few people in there, the characters left confused, and it's questioned later on, but it's not immediate. It's not drawn out for ages with people, getting all angry and over the top about it. It's there. And like I said, you're left to just sort of work with what you're given, which is very little, which I like.
I like that point as one of the highlights that people compliment the show for, which is that Attack on Titan likes to break as many conventions as it can, while at the same time it still has to follow some of the guidelines for how a story works, but it likes to deviate as much as it can. I think that's one of the prime examples of how that works.
Since I did my review, I feel like not my opinions have changed, because I still rate it very highly, but I think my reasoning for certain opinions have changed, because that was technically my first review. So I think I've thought a lot more in depth about things now, and I can see points I raised made sense, but I didn't address the right reasons for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for instance, that is I talk about pace a lot in it, and because pace is one of the things that I felt let it down earlier on, because the pacing gets a little bit confusing towards the end of the anime when they're out in the forest for about 6 or 7 episodes, and that's only like a few hours, and it feels like days. But I feel like the pace has changed a lot, and it makes a lot more sense now. And I just feel like my reasoning has changed for a lot of the opinions I've brought up.
You know, I will still agree that the anime has a lot of issues with pacing. I think it does have some issues.
It does.
In both the expedition and early on, thinking episode 9, 10, roughly, because I'm actually getting worse and worse with episode numbers as time goes by. But it was Robot who helped me realize that you have to actually make that distinction between the pace for the anime and the pace for the manga, because
it's a very different thing. Because I'm quite late to reading the manga, because I actually skipped basically the part that was in the anime, because I just watched the anime, and I thought, well, I don't need to read 8 volumes again of what I've literally just seen. Mm-hmm. And they are very different. And
they are.
It's probably a mistake to have done that, and I will go back and read them at some point.
To highlight what you just said, go back and read the stuff covered.
I'm definitely going to. But I wanted to get ahead, because I don't want to be left behind, and if I'd have gone back and read another 8 volumes or so, I would have been left behind massively with what was happening currently. So I thought, I'll just get on top of it. So I did. I went to where the anime ends, and it ends differently.
It does, yeah.
And it surprised me, because I read it and I was like, hold on a second, did I pick it up in the right place? Because this happened at the end of the anime, and then this happened at the end of where the anime ends, but that's not what happens in the anime.
The anime it had to change it a lot
because it had to end. Right. It had to have a conclusion. Right. Whereas the manga, because it's still currently an ongoing thing, it's gotta keep it going, and it doesn't stop at all. Whereas expecting there to be some sort of pause, it didn't stop. It just continued.
There's so many weird distinctions between the anime and manga, and we talked with Robot about that for a real long time. But none of the differences are significant enough that Isayama would have missed them being in the anime if they were important enough. But then, at the same time, those extra scenes and those extra details are awesome. And he took a lot of real crazy leaps in, like, the order changing and what characters were going to look like and say in certain important scenes, and it's all over the place. So it's really important to draw that distinction between criticisms of the anime and criticisms of the manga.
Yeah, they are. I think what we need to establish is that they are extremely, extremely different animals entirely.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely.
And that's not only just because there are medium differences, but obviously, like we've mentioned, the pacing issues are different too.
Well, yeah, because it's easier to keep. I think it's a lot easier to keep up a pace in something that you're physically watching rather than reading, because it's a lot more effort to a viewer or a reader to continue reading than it is to just sit and watch something. So you need to do something with a book to grab the attention of the reader more so than in a television show.
Right.
And at that same token, it's much harder to grasp the attention and to get as much of the point across as you want in the manga, because you only have like a couple pages, whereas in a scene in an anime, like one scene, you can cover multiple pages in a manga, and you don't have 100, 200 pages per each manga chapter in order to convey a point, which they would need to do in order to maintain the pace of the anime. So you have like privileges and rights with the anime, like freedoms as an anime writer or whoever choreographs the scenes, opposed to someone who has to, like Isayama, actually make the drawings and the speech bubbles and think very carefully. All right, I have to get this point across, but the page is only so big, so I can't have like 5 paragraphs of speech, so I have to convey it in a different way. So it's much more technical and, precise in the manga as opposed to the anime.
And that's definitely one of the reasons I actually appreciate the manga more than the anime, because I watched the anime and I did enjoy it quite a lot. But then since I've started reading the manga, it's a lot more interesting, and because it's harder for it to grab your attention, it has to work harder to grab your attention, and it does that very well. It grabs your attention much better than you would expect it to, actually, or at least for me, it did.
Yeah, I get that too.
So, to get us back on topic,
Yeah,
what I thought about Chapter 62...
topic deviations, man.
Yeah, we took quite a leap. For Chapter 62, I'm kind of a middle ground, because Chapter 62 was all over the place. Where, like Scotty mentioned, we had confirmed theories, we had new information sort of presented in a weird way, where it introduced some new theories we have to think about. It handled some character development in Erwin specifically that was really interesting.
And Zachary too, which is even more interesting.
Yeah, and Zachary too, I shouldn't ignore that. Zachary definitely... his character was revealed more than it was developed, I think.
Yes, it was given... It was highlighted as, this is a character now.
There was a lot of speculation back and forth between the new Squad Levi group and Hanji about what was going on. Was it a good chapter? Yeah, there was nothing wrong with it.
I was about to say.
I guess I don't want to say it didn't do anything to offend me, because it did do stuff to offend me.
But like betray Erwin. I know you're gonna have a problem with that, right?
Of course, so much issue. But I can't knock it because it didn't do anything too horrible. It didn't confirm anything I didn't like. So I'm kind of in between. I like that stuff happened. I like that a lot of stuff happened. But
right.
The things that did happen scare me. I am terrified by the way this chapter ended.
Elaborate on where you think it might go from there, because I'm interested.
What I'm scared of is how this chapter ended, with Historia and Rod Rice doing that thing where they touched Eren, and somehow there was a memory recollection event type thing that happened, and a bunch of images flashed in front of us, and it didn't...
They are worth talking about, I think.
And it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, that's obviously
they didn't
the
make
point.
Any sense, but there's stuff for us to talk about, because we can go, well, let's look at this image. Is that Historia? Is that some other woman? Why is this person like that? Who knows?
Yes.
Those glasses that Eren had at the end of the chapter, were they actually Grisha's, or were they somebody else's?
No.
Grisha's not the only person who wears glasses.
Yeah, but there's no reason to assume it was anyone but Grisha's glasses.
Well, this is the Mina argument. This is the exact same thing as the body of Mina argument, because we see a body, but we can't confirm or deny that the body that we see is the person we think it is. Because either their torso is gone or their face is not drawn in the panel.
Okay, but then towards the end, let me go to it for a second. It says, "Child had eaten father!" Exclamation point.
That's
so it's
true.
Like,
that's true, but it's almost at the same time.
That's confirmed.
I don't know.
We can assume that that's confirmed.
I think he's...
And it wasn't even, let's be very clear here. It was exclamation point.
Yeah, there were no question.
There were no question marks. Yeah,
it was
It wasn't child hate father as if it was prompting discussion. It was pretty out there.
Yeah.
It was child had eaten father.
I think he's playing with our expectations, and he put that point there with both exclamation points to say, this is what it looks like, this is what I want you to think it is. It could be.
I don't see why you would have any reason to deliberately deceive on that point, though, because it seems like...
The reason you would do that is because the twist that you have planned involves the reader needing to think that. And as far as stories go, the rule of thumb is that if we don't see the body of the character clearly being dead, they aren't dead.
But here,
yes.
let me add further, not proof, but further compelling evidence, which is in the panel before we see the Titan transformation of Eren and the person being eaten, we see the same person, assumedly, who's about to be eaten, holding the syringe. And we know for a fact in the anime, the person holding the syringe is in fact Grisha.
Mm-hmm.
So that further leads, and also the person who gives and holds the hand of Eren when he has the key is confirmed to be Grisha for the anime, and that's also the panel before we see the injection.
Well,
so
yes,
it's too easy. It's too easy to play that off as playing with our
the things we know for a fact is that he was definitely there. We can't say what happened or what events transpired as a result, or rather, whilst he was there. We just know he was there.
Right. I have to take a hard-line stance against basically anything being confirmed anymore. No theory gets confirmed that I'm okay with anymore, because the show has made me take a stance that says, alright, well, you're not going to reveal any information, so I'm not going to believe any information until the show is over. I don't care.
Isayama is extremely secretive about things.
I have to take such an extremist stance because how can I believe anything when everything is a mystery? You raise questions every time you try and tell me something. Why should I believe anything?
True.
So I'm questionable about that, but that's not even the part that really terrified me. I don't care that much about Grisha. The part that scared me the most was in that memory recollection. The fact that it happened by contact. Contact alone made that happen through some mysterious force that wasn't explained.
So, yeah, well,
I don't like that because it's like the sister theory to mind.
Well, I have not a theory, but I think, and I don't want this to be the case, but I think there's a lot of supporting evidence to say that this is going to be the turning point when we get more into the supernatural elements.
Oh
no! Let me just tell you why. Number one, it's reaffirmed again that Eren says the walls are glowing faintly. So already we got a really supernatural-esque location.
It's a cave and they have candles burning. Okay.
No way. No way. That is not true.
A lot of candles.
And number two, then that's followed by immediately the all-knowing hand touching Eren's sparking memories.
Yes.
So
there's such shit, man. That better not be fucking
There's
real.
a very distinct pattern that leads me to believe they're going down the other path of supernatural areas. Because we already know that there is some form of supernatural elements to the story because Titan transformation happens with lightning that shoots from the sky.
Sure.
So therefore, that element already existed, but we never touched on it, and that was always a question in everyone's mind. I think, like, what does that have to do with anything? How
do they disappear out of thin air?
Exactly.
You know.
So
how did the Colossal Titan kick in the wall, get hit by lightning strike, and then just vanish?
I mean,
if you go to page 28, 27. Like, wow, that is those aren't some candles. That is what is Superman's cave called?
Superman's cave?
No, cave.
Cave. The Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, dude, that is Fortress of Solitude-esque, like, to the max. 28, 27.
Yeah, and
that's
looking at those crystals, how can anyone not immediately think, I wonder if those crystals are, like, related to Annie somehow.
Yeah, true, because...
Are those crystals similar to Annie's crystal? Is that, like, the material her crystal is made out of?
I think we'll get much more confirmation or denial on that point when the anime reaches that.
Is that like a Gundanium thing? Where they invented it based solely on this thing that needs to be explained?
The way I see it is that Chapter 62 has opened a lot of doors.
It seems like every other chapter does that, though, which is why this is why we should not believe anything ever.
True, but I mean, 62 has opened a lot of doors. some of them are going to lead to nowhere in particular and are going to be complete red herrings and just absolutely false. But some of them, I think, could lead somewhere. And some of them, like you say, the supernatural elements, I personally wouldn't like it if they went further down the supernatural route, because, I mean, that's just me, because I'm a fan of them explaining things. I like
You're a fan
things
of
that
smart
get explained.
stories.
Yeah, well, there are smart stories that don't explain themselves,
Well,
and that's what bugs
if you're
me.
going to play with a supernatural theme, it needs to be presented early and often, and we need to be aware that it's a supernatural theme.
Which,
Well,
I mean, I suppose it.
You can't leave it up in the air as a question and then.
But it was
not
always
ever-
up in the air as a question.
Yeah, but it was never a thing they talked about. It was never
Exactly,
A thing they
so it was
made
a
point
question.
of.
Yeah,
Which is not good. It's not good to be a question.
okay, it's not good, but nonetheless, it happened because obviously it is supernatural for lightning to come out of the sky, and I can't see. Okay, the reason, or in my mind, the understanding, like why they left that up to a question, was because it was one point, and there was like biology clearly going on that made the transformation possible. So they were like,
But that's been throughout. That's been presented, and it's been reinforced over and over again.
right, and it's like that's just one point where, if they don't explain it, if they get to it later, it's like, well, it's not the end of the world. However, you've now presented multiple supernatural elements to the story, to the point where you can't just show this cave and then be like, all right, peace, and never mention it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
There's something will have to come of it. Something will have to come of it.
I'm afraid of that too. They present things like that and then make us think that one day we'll come back and get answers to them, and they just never do. That would be bad. That would be the worst.
I feel like they're going to answer the cave, at least some of the questions of like what the location is, because they already presented it where Aaron's like, I've been here before. So that leaves the door open for next chapter.
It needs to be presented soon with relevance. I mean, they will explain the relevance of the cave somehow. Whether it's a lightly touched on topic that's just sort of, it's this place, or it has this relevance to the current story, or whether it's an in-depth thing that takes, a whole chapter or half a chapter to explain, remains to be seen. But it could go either way, I think.
Looking at that panel, I also have to wonder if we're misinterpreting that image. Like, are those actually crystals? Or are those actually, like...
ice? They could...
Well, I was thinking they also kind of looked at, like the way that they're connecting to the floor, they kind of look like those things that show up on Aaron's face when he transforms. Like, they're like flesh... Whatever they're called. I don't want to say tendons, but they're like a flesh pillar. And,
I really, really doubt that.
well, I mean, look at the way they're connected to the floor. They're like string. They look like they're...
That's also stalagmites and stalactites do that.
One problem with a black and white manga is you lose
I was about to say
a lot
that.
of the perception.
That's true.
Yeah,
you lose a great portion of your perception. See, in an anime, it's pretty easy, or at least it's much easier to be able to deduce what you're seeing. And, for instance, of the things we've just discussed, we could rule out a huge number of those with color.
Yeah, that's true.
But we don't have that.
What if those pillars are made of pomegranates?
No,
we don't.
We don't know. I know you're joking, Stiller, but there's no way you can get around the supernatural element, because no matter what they are glowing, and that's not in nature. So
are they actually glowing? Can we?
That's what he said.
He said.
Yes, this wall. What is it? It's glowing faintly.
Yeah, that too. But what about if we look in between the pillars? If there's a couple of spots on this panel where you look between some of these two different pillar tower things, and you just see white. You just see like a blank white.
I think the white
that's in previous panels too.
I think the white was trying to emphasize the glowing.
Is it emphasizing it, or is it actually a different object entirely?
What do you mean an object?
Well, who knows? Maybe there are kids
an object there. Shut up! Get out of here! Come on.
Well,
oh shit. Okay, well I think we've beaten that horse to death.
Oh man, we could have skipped very close to the end.
Straight for the
Was
interesting.
that not the most interesting part of this?
Well, of course it was. It's the most discussion-prompting part.
If you picked 5 random people who read that chapter to get together, what do you think the first thing they're going to talk about is going to be?
They're going to talk about, where's Connie? I didn't see him at all.
Of course, obviously.
And then they'll go.
You know what? He was in this chapter. He was in one panel where they were standing around talking, and he did.
Actually, now that you mention it, between 20 and 27, I see him in the white mist. I think he's hiding with his camouflage.
Oh, you're telling me the white blank canvas is Connie?
Oh yeah, he just stretched
the whole thing.
Like there are holes in the cave, and the sun is reflecting off of his bald head.
Exactly. It's gonna blind them as they take back Eren. So he's gonna be the savior.
He would. Oh my god, I can't.
Yep.
I can't deal with
Yes, he is in a panel. I found a panel of which he is in.
By far the best panel of the entire chapter.
Yeah, from Scotty's perspective, clearly. You know, one of these days we're gonna have to do an actual serious aberrant about him. Are you ready for that?
I mean, I'm not ready immediately, but I am ready.
Spiritually, you're ready.
I'm spiritually, yes, and that's very fitting because I'm at the panel with the chapel. So
you know, I'm glad you're ready because I'm not. I don't think I can handle a Connie aberrant.
Be prepared.
What would we talk about? It would be like 10 minutes long.
You wouldn't talk about anything. You sit back and enjoy the ride.
Oh man, I might just sit there and laugh. That would be fun too.
How dare you?
For just a whole 2 hours?
No, it'd be much longer than 2 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
5 hours?
It wouldn't be. I don't know how long I could stretch it.
So I want to go back to the supernatural topic.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we believe in the supernatural topic now? Do we believe did this chapter make it more believable? Is the question.
What do you mean believable?
Are we more open to the idea of supernatural elements being involved in the story?
There are clearly. I mean, the lightning is undoubtedly supernatural.
And it's also, that is also in the panel when Eren first sees the flashback. There's a seemingly lightning effect. I guess that's to prompt the next page, in which we see the unknown Titan. But it's definitely worth noting that the supernatural has been a part of it since the beginning, but it's never been a major part of it. It's just been sort of there.
Like, the idea is that we've gone through the story so far, and we've had to bend our suspension of disbelief a little bit with things like shifting and the lightning strike and all this sort of crap.
The way that sort of thing is set up, it's set up in a way that it's explained procedurally, because the shifting is becoming clearer and clearer, but at the same time more and more ambiguous, because every time we learn something new about how the shifting works, we gain a new mystery about the shifting, if you like. For instance...
So how are we going to proceed with this, where we've established that sort of procedure, like you say, and then all of a sudden shift to a supernatural explanation for these things that have always before been clearly grounded in not as supernatural?
Well, I wouldn't say reality, but, closer to reality.
I stopped from saying
yes,
that.
Yeah. it's grounded closer to reality than the supernatural, definitely.
I mean, I would say that most elements of this series are grounded in closer in the spectrum of reality versus supernatural to reality. However, there definitely are elements that are clearly shown to not be on the reality end of the spectrum, such as the transformation, such as whatever memory you want to, not mind wipe, whatever you want to call it, and then, I mean, I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to explain at least some of those things, because Rod Rice clearly has a grasp on what's going on. He's got the knowledge, because he's just like, hand touch, boom, he got the knowledge. Like, he knows how to do it. What
is that, though?
No, and also...
Do you realize that you're fighting for bad things in the story
now? No, I'm not fighting for bad things. This is the distinction, though.
This is the way you're explaining them, though.
No. because I'm just a realist in the sense that clearly
You're
these
a
things.
realist fighting for supernatural
No.
things?
Hey. I'm a realist in the sense that I acknowledge these events occurred, and their implications aren't grounded in reality. You can't say that
Which means
touching.
if they're not grounded in reality, we should be dismissing them as a thing that's not.
But they happened. You can't dismiss them as a thing that didn't happen because
Well, no.
they clearly happened.
They happened. We can acknowledge that they happened, but we should be
It all
fighting
depends.
against the explanation that says that they're supernatural.
There's no explanation of my hand touched you, and I clearly, implicitly stated my hand touching you will be the action that causes your memories. So therefore,
we don't know that though.
No. He said it.
Yeah.
He said it. He literally said, "I'll find the exact panel." He said, "Doing this might make him remember." So his hand touch is what
A slight
he
trigger.
He did say
Yeah.
might though, so which means
But
it might not have
but
worked.
he knew that the implication of a hand touch
Could.
So he knew there was a supernatural element, which was confirmed because it worked.
However, the way that he says might leaves a certain ambiguity about whether it is supernatural. Because if it was leaning much further towards the supernatural side, it would probably be a lot more likely to occur. It would be doing this will make him remember. If
On
it was
top of that, we
around
don't know if
further
this
in
is-
supernatural.
We don't know if this is an actual technique, if this is an actual thing, if he's actually using some sort of power, or if he's actually using some sort of insight or gift.
Yeah.
No. That's
Or if this is just some sort of
let me say, Stiller.
trigger. I don't know.
Stiller.
It is-
Well, he used the word trigger exactly, but besides that, he specifically stated in this place. So the area itself
The area
is
itself has some
causing
sort of importance, yeah.
very
But
not only
that's
important.
not necessarily a supernatural importance, because Aaron brings up the point that he's experiencing deja vu while he's there. He feels like he's been here before. So
And then
that
Rod even went
Yeah.
so far as to say then that, well, I can confirm
Yeah.
for you that you've never been here.
which is you could argue both ways for that. You could argue, well,
because
surely
Rod,
that means
who the
it's
f-
more
how do you know I've
supernatural.
never been here.
Yes.
Because there might.
Hey,
there
Rod,
must-
I think you're a liar.
Yeah, like I say, you could argue both ways, because you could also argue, well, if we assume that Rod is telling the truth, then that means that that probably adds to the supernatural side of things, because, like, okay, so Aaron's experiencing deja vu even though he has quite clearly never been here, but you could also argue the point that Rod is lying to him to make him believe certain things, to steer him a certain way.
We have two elements to that, because we also have Historia's effect in this. Because he's also interacting with her, and we still don't know whether he's being truthful with her or not.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say he probably is being truthful with her. However, his reasoning and like his excuses are probably lies for the reasons why he did those actions.
Or it might be one of those situations where he believes that his story is, I don't want to say believable, but
He thinks he's in the moral correct. Yeah.
He believes that he's right, but his
An anti-hero.
Right. I don't want to
Yes.
say anti-hero, but his
Well, yeah.
his perspective is fucked up. He might not be an anti-hero. He might.
But if
just be
he's
confused.
doing the wrong actions but for the right moral grounds in his own mind, that's an anti-hero.
If it turns out that he's actually fighting for a good cause, we don't know that yet.
Well,
It's true.
it's
Are we-
whether or not the
we
cause is just in his
That
mind.
said, we also can't call him an anti-villain. We don't know. We just don't
Is
know.
there anything such thing as an anti-villain?
Probably.
Anti-villain.
I've never heard of that term.
So, probably the same thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, I can
TV
imagine.
Tropes has a page on anti-villains.
Perfect. Confirmed.
Confirmed.
So,
Theory
An
confirmed.
anti-villain is the opposite of an anti-hero, a villain with heroic goals, personality traits, and/or virtues. Their desired ends are mostly good, but their means of getting there are evil.
Isn't that,
Right.
Scotty, what you define to be an anti-hero?
Pretty much.
What is an anti-hero then?
I
If
thought
that's
that
the
was-
opposite.
That is
Yeah,
totally the
so did I.
colloquial.
So,
Yeah.
an anti-hero is a good person who does villainous things to achieve their good goal.
But so
It's
I
kind of-
see. So an anti-hero is a good person with good morals, but uses evil methods to get there. And an anti-villain
Is the opposite.
is a bad person with bad morals but good goals.
Yes.
That's so messed. I don't know. That is weird to me.
Either way, I think we can agree that the archetype of an anti-villain is much, much less common than an anti-hero, for the simple reason that it's pretty useless in comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a really weird situation.
Yeah. It is an odd archetype, and an oddly specific archetype at that.
So I think the point here is that Rod's mysterious, and we don't know anything about what he's doing. His story is mysterious, because why is she going along with this? Nothing she's doing makes any sense.
Well, she's most likely been fed information that... And he has powers at some level, maybe, to...
She's been fed information, but does she like those reasons? Is she okay with those reasons? We don't know.
Clearly. I mean, unless she's a good liar.
I think we can say for almost certain that within the next chapter, we will see what happens between Aaron being kidnapped and him being there, because pretty much one of the first things that he says, or at least thinks, is he ponders how much time has passed since then, which clearly indicates that a large amount of time has probably passed since he was last conscious. So, and some events evidently occurred within that time,
This is so
pertaining to this, rather than pertaining to the Survey Corps themselves, which is what he's wondering about. I think the next chapter will probably showcase the means of kidnapping Aaron and getting him there, and how that progressed, and also why Historia is suddenly going along with Rod just to the letter.
This is why you shouldn't believe anything. It's because it's too confusing to follow.
It could go any way at any point.
Harv, I would like for that to happen, but I think that's wishful thinking at this point. Because
it is.
There are a lot of opportunities where they would have been very apt to go back and explain what occurred, and they just refused to do so.
It's true.
This could be one of those moments. I feel like with the good rate, I should add, that this plot's progressing at this point, I feel like for them to take a step back and look at the past, unless a really significant thing happened.
Yes,
significant.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be, because we don't know. Obviously, that's the whole point. We don't know what events transpired in that period of time. Exactly. So it could be nothing much, and it could be just touched on. It could be completely ignored entirely, like you say. Or it could be something extremely significant, which will set, a whole portion of the story in motion.
There's also the possibility that what we've forgotten about is that lapse in time during their time training could still potentially be a retcon point. At any point in the future, he could dial back those years that we skipped and just add something. That's constantly a possibility. Because
it's one of the things that at first you don't understand as to why they're left so open, because it's one of the issues I actually had with the anime, is because it's like, oh, you just skip like 3 to 5 years just like that. It's like, do you seriously expect me to believe that literally nothing happened there? I know this is digressing a little bit, but if we go and look at Sword Art Online, one of the major problems with that is they skip 2 years between one episode. They literally skip 2 years in a death game where a single wrong move will kill you, and in those 2 years, nothing relevant happened. How do you even begin to expect that people will just believe that nothing happened there?
There's too much speculation going on. Because we could also add that, hey, Shadis knows Grisha somehow. Is that ever going to be explained? Some people noted on the subreddit that they think they saw Shadis in this episode somewhere. I don't remember where.
I think I wasn't reading it with enough concentration
to
detect.
He might have been in a flashback somewhere. I don't know. But
I'm scanning now.
But man, like this, you mentioned it earlier. There are too many doors that are open right now.
There are too many plot threads being started. I think not all of which, well, almost definitely not all of which will go anywhere. I don't know. It's too open-ended at the moment to fully come to many conclusions.
And the bad part is that it's been open-ended for like 20 chapters, probably.
Yeah.
where every time we have a chapter like this where, oh, here's a thing that should confirm something. Oh, wait.
But it doesn't. It just confirms more speculation. And the thing is, Isayama writes ambiguity in such a way that not only is it there to prompt speculation, the speculation that is prompted prompts more speculation. It's written so that everything is connected, or so it seems. And it's especially in the earlier days of the anime and the manga especially, it's written so that everything is connected, and that's what you believe. And then as you get further in, you start to make those assumptions that everything is connected, when it's not necessarily true. Isayama has built up the fandom to believe that it's all going to be predictable, and it really, really isn't. And so the fandom thinks that they're onto everything, when really they probably couldn't be further from the truth.
Which is why I just stopped.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Like, there are so many different wild, insane theories out there. It's totally possible that people are right, and that Historia is brainwashed right now. They're trying to brainwash Eren. It's always possible, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's another thing that they really need to accelerate on, is the point of what their intentions are with Eren. I mean, I know that we already basically have a very clear understanding from what Hanji said about, we got intel from, again, an unknown source pretty much, that
which is another thing left open-ended.
Yeah, that Rod is trying to get Eren eaten in order to get his Titan power, and it's very curious why or how it's referred to, just Titan power. And it's never referred to as coordinate. It's never referred to as
it's almost
what
like
it
they
is.
forgot that it exists.
Yeah, it's almost as if like they just, because it's so weird, because
It's
the
a
way
very specific thing.
yeah, and the way it's written is almost as if it's such a known power he has. Like, oh, of course, the coordinate. And like they didn't even mention it because they didn't bother. It's just like, oh, of course.
Yeah, it's a seemingly such an obvious point that it doesn't even need mentioning.
You say that, but there's a panel in this chapter where Armin is still talking about the theory that we confirmed last chapter about how the transfer of shifter power works between people.
But that's Armin for you.
But
yeah,
but what I mean is they're still explaining things like that to the audience. If they're assuming that we're following them, that's kind of a contradiction. It
could be misleading because, again, Armin very clearly says that it's still speculation, pretty much. He I think he uses the phrase "if that is true," which means it's still not confirmed whether the whole you can acquire powers by eating the person with the powers. That's not confirmed. It's just heavily implied.
Is anything confirmed in this show?
Kind of, but
no.
Let me go back to your
point. Tell me that something's confirmed. Tell me.
No, well, I can't
tell
you. They didn't confirm. They confirmed that Connie was monkey trouble. But besides that, let me go on to the point that when Armin says, if that's true about like the shifting powers and how they can be transferred, he's not talking to the audience. He's talking with his group, with all the characters. Isn't he just thinking that? Those aren't. Yeah, but again, maybe not to the group, but it is
mid-conversation.
Yeah.
Rather.
So the audience is expected to be more up to date even than the characters themselves, and we, obviously, as the story progresses, need the characters to realize what the audience already knows. So this conversation is inevitable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And also,
so weird though. Just
the panel below that just goes further to prompt the theory of Grisha being the one who Eren ate, because that opens towards the end of the chapter, because he questions who Eren ate to become a Titan. And this then affirms the theory that Grisha was a shifter, or at least of some description, possessed that power. And that's if Grisha was the one that Eren ate. And it's heavily implied that it is Grisha, almost to a point where it's pretty much confirmed, but again, it's not actually confirmed.
I hate that so goddamn much. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But even still, this is still too meaty of a topic that we just can't move away from. The next thing I think we should talk about is the story of Rod Rice and the story of that family and the story of the girls, the daughters being murdered and all that shit.
And that, again, is another thing, before we even start on it, that is left entirely open-ended.
Boy, is that not a confirmed thing at all.
I feel like there's something confirmed there. Almost.
Well, that it happened?
Well, I think that who attacked the chapel was Grisha. I think that there's a lot of evidence to support that.
Here's the problem, though. The problem with this is Hanji's line that says, the only person to witness the bandits was Rod. The only person who has an account of the story is Rod.
And that we know that we don't know whether his accounts are trustworthy or not, and especially if he was, because it seems, again, or at least the vibe I got from it was that it's implied that he had some reason for, I don't know. Well, yeah.
Because I understand, Hart. Because he rebuilt the chapel
immediately.
Therefore, that's as if he wants to cover it up.
Yes.
So,
which would then give him not a motive, but it makes him look much more guilty, or not necessarily guilty, but more involved than he would probably like to be known for.
Oh yeah, because if you're the only one who survives, and like a Titan attack especially, which is, you're not surviving that if the Titan wants to, you're dead. You're in the middle of a chapel, surrounded in a circle.
Completely defenseless.
Well, actually, defenseless isn't true though, because we see the girl Titan is defending, so we don't know who that is, the girl Titan.
Well, yeah, and again, more open-endedness.
And it's weird because it's... at first I thought, oh, of course, that looks identical to Historia. And
I think that was everyone's first thought. I think that was everyone's immediate conclusion was, wait, Historia has a Titan form?
And then we almost immediately realize, oh wait, but then doesn't Rod at the same token say this was around the exact same time when Historia was almost executed?
Right.
Also, there was sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so that's conflicting timelines, which she couldn't be two places at once.
The subreddit added speculation to this that they thought one of the kids, when they were telling the story, was a boy who looked an awful lot like Aaron. So the people were
in the panel in the chapel, you mean?
Yeah, that panel and one of the panels at the end of the chapter.
The boy on the left-ish.
Right. They talked about maybe that kid was Aaron, and that Rod had the possibility of hiding that he was Aaron and sent him with Grisha somehow.
It's fairly difficult to tell because it's not supposed to be detailed. Maybe because it's open-ended, and maybe because it's just not supposed to lead to anything. I mean, again, you could argue both ways.
So here we have another situation where they tried to tell a story, and they tried to tell us things that happened, and they tried to give us information, and it's all questionable. We could say, no, I don't believe any of it, if we wanted to.
Almost the entire chapter is completely left open to speculation at this point. And that's because I'm pretty sure it's numerically a mid-volume chapter, as far as I know.
There's only one thing, I believe, that got confirmed in this chapter, and that's the name of Geographia. Geographia's actual name. I don't think he's lying about that.
No, but even that's weird, because I'm so confused, because didn't she die, supposedly, in the chapel?
But the attack that killed all of them happened before Historia's mother was killed, I think. And where that scene with Geographia and Historia happened isn't totally clear. Like, that didn't give a specific date and time where that happened, I don't think.
It is so weird. Because when I saw her, I was like, that's Geographia. And I'm like, oh, but she died. I'm like, oh, I don't get it anymore. Like, I'm starting to not understand.
This chapter was I meant to mislead, and I think it's pretty clear from the beginning that it's meant to push you in a certain direction, and that may not necessarily be the right direction.
Wasn't there I like going back to this every couple chapters. But there was a statement Isayama put out in an interview that said, "Alright, from here on out, all information, all answers."
Oh yeah, let me tell you. Let me do that.
Do you guys remember that?
I remember you speaking about it. I remember immediately discounting it as bullshit.
Yeah, hold on a second. This is unrelated to 62, but at some point, we need to talk about Isayama's trolling game with the Armin is a girl. And more specifically, the fandom's overreaction.
You know what? Let's do that right now. Let's segue into that. Before we
Okay,
move on to the next
sure.
topic
Why
we'll talk
not?
about.
It's unrelated and it's completely off topic, but it's
Segue as in
interesting.
abruptly go into that conversation.
Segue as in jump off a cliff and maybe
Hey.
you'll get.
Shut up, guys. The segue works if you don't talk about it.
But yeah,
so-
so for the listeners that aren't aware, if there are any, Isayama was asked in an interview several questions. One of which was I believe it was something like, of all the girls in the 104th, who did Mikasa get along with best? And Isayama's reply was Armin. And of course, knowing the fandom, they didn't take this as a potential joke.
I saw it as polarizing. Some people loved how I don't want to say sarcastic, but how much of a dick that response was. And the other part of it was, man. You know?
But like, I followed it as it happened, as the whole thing came out, and it was brilliant. I was on the wiki, and I kept refreshing the wiki, and Armin's gender was switching from male to female every minute.
I believe that.
It happened, and I was frantically searching for information. A large portion of the fandom did in fact believe that this was true. That Isayama had just like dropped a bomb, and I didn't really believe it because, I mean, it didn't seem at all plausible, and it didn't seem like it had any point. Like, if it was going to be a reveal, then surely it would have been a reveal within the story.
I'm on board with the idea that no, this wasn't a serious thing. He's just fucking.
Yeah, when in a text interview, it's impossible to tell the tone of voice in which it was said.
Another fun element that came out with that was the woman who played the voice actress for Armin, I believe.
Yes, she confirmed.
She took a stance on it, and she said Armin's a guy.
Yeah, but he's voiced by a female. Now, a lot of people are going to argue that
How is the voice
voiced by a
actress?
female, but
How is she
take a look.
How is she?
Yeah,
gonna fight the
that
guy?
is one thing I did think. I thought, well, you know, on one side it's like, well, yeah, I mean, she's playing the character, and she's the first person to ever play the character, so you know she would know. And then, separately.
No, you think?
Well, yeah, but I mean, she's the first person other than, you know, Isayama. But the thing is, the other thing is how, though, because as a voice actor, you're given a script, and it doesn't distinctly say whether your character is male or female. You know, I would assume not. Anyway, I mean that would be kind of redundant to do that. But I mean, it's pretty. If you look at the evidence, I mean, what evidence do we have for Armin being male? I mean, you can go back and look.
I just have a hard time believing this is even like a real like.
I don't think it is. I really don't think it is.
It's not really, because I mean, I would say this is about 0.1% likelihood if it was just a pure manga-based series.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, well, when you throw
in the public? Why would he say that in the public? Why would he reveal that just generally?
But not even that. But when you add in the anime, it's 100% confirmed that it's male. He's male.
Yeah,
like he's
always referred to as he. Never any even slight doubt about that. It's always he. It's always him.
I think the long and the short of it is that it's a running joke that he's contributed to now.
Yeah, and that's why I think Isayama picked up on that. And I don't know whether Isayama intentionally did that and knew the fandom was going to react in such a way.
I think he did. I just don't.
Yeah,
I
think
it was a good idea.
Either his trolling game is completely on point,
which I love. I love it much.
Oh yeah, it would be great if that was if he knew that the fandom was gonna completely overanalyze it because that's how he sets everything up. Or it could just be a simple joke that he didn't intend to get out of hand, but I don't think it was like that. I think he knew what he was getting himself into when he said it.
Probably,
it's a snowballed event, so to speak, because we also had this conversation when he talked about Hanji and wouldn't confirm one way or the other whether Hanji was a male or female.
Again, but I would say that as a trolling game because everyone went, well, Hanji's female, or most people went for Hanji's female. So
what we've learned is that it's hard to believe anything he writes in his chapters, and it's also hard to believe anything he says.
Basically, if it was thought up by Isayama, don't believe it.
If it's a thing that has anything to do with him, you can't totally believe it.
If he had any influence on the creation of any sort of, even just a thought about something, do not trust it, even just the slightest. Treat it with the utmost. Just be on your complete guard that he will probably be lying. Just absolutely. In fact, you should probably take it as far as to believe the complete opposite, or just something just completely out of left field, just something completely different.
We should give him that title.
Just go, do you know what, that's not even true, and then just make up some other theory that's probably closer to the truth.
that's
like, oh yeah,
his new title.
Turns out, Isayama is actually the mastermind behind everything, and he is also a Titan, and the creator of the Titans, and a Titan shifter. And that's probably closer to the truth than anything that Isayama has ever said.
He's also in the basement.
That's what's in the basement.
Yeah.
It's Isayama writing manga. That's it.
Oh my god. Could you... Dude, if this would be the most mind-blowing anime and manga of all time, if he just broke the 4th, 8th, 10th wall, and just literally we open that basement,
it's just him.
He's just like, welcome. It's like one of those like Matrix
meta.
Reloaded. Yeah, like
Jesus Christ.
I think I would have to take a
I'm
break.
the architect.
I think I would have to take a break from manga for a while.
I think I would have to take a break from life for a while after that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty life-changing experience.
You dragged me through this story for 5 years, and that's the answer.
The meta would be just off the scale if that happened.
It would be too...
I would never.
It would be.
I would develop trust issues. I would never be able to commit to anything again.
I'm pretty sure that's what Isayama is just building everyone up to. It's just like the moral of Attack on Titan is just trust nothing anyone ever says.
Yeah, and all of your theories, everything even your own thoughts, you can't trust because they're going to be 100%.
Because sometimes I'm in your thoughts.
Sometimes I influence your thoughts, and I understand what you're going to think about, or what you're going to think about.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate how much off topic this is?
Yo, serious question, how much did you two hate the first half of this chapter? Because we avoided it like the plague. This is like the plague at this point. I
was going to mention earlier, but when we were still talking about Aaron and we were still talking about all that stuff, I was like, we can't get off of this topic.
Yeah. We spent like 40 minutes on that, the supernatural debate alone.
And there's going to be like 5 questions that are going to be like, what do you think about Grisha?
Just like, just skip back like half an hour.
Oh my god.
Okay. I'm gonna say though, one last point about the Grisha, if not, that's him at the end that Aaron ate. I'm gonna say another supporting point, not in this chapter, but overall in the story, that supports that being Grisha, is I can't even see Isayama going that far into left field, because if that wasn't Grisha, the implication there is that he's still alive, and that would be such a tangent that this anime or manga would continue for years. Just on that one side.
Though, that sets it up so that Grisha can have a reunion with.
No, but then that explains where was Grisha. What were his events that he was going through? How did he influence every action up to that point?
I don't think it would explain anything. It would set us back to where did he go, because he showed up.
If they brought up back Grisha and they didn't explain anything about where he was, what he was doing, I would have to jump off a bridge. I couldn't take that.
Well, I mean, now...
Declare war on Isayama.
Well, no,
honestly,
what I mean
I would
is right now, if we can't confirm that it's Grisha. You know what I mean?
We can't. we can't confirm that it is indeed
Well, that's
Grisha.
what I mean.
But
If it's
like I
not
said,
Grisha, we're
well,
back to the point
rather-
we were before this chapter, which is we don't know anything about what's going on.
No, but still, you understand my point, though, right? Which is, if in fact that isn't Grisha, then
They still have to
eventually
explain it, right?
we will
the
find Grisha.
implications.
Yeah.
The implications will be a lot larger, and I think personally that's probably one of the paths that Isayama is leading you down, and is correct. I think that's a given one. Because I like you say, I don't think it's too far in now to go back without huge implications on the rest of the story.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's too there's too much evidence pointing to Grisha being a shifter and the one that Eren ate to gain his powers. There's too much evidence pointing to that for Isayama to just say, you know what, no, just forget all that canon I established, you know? Who needs that, right?
There'd be too much backstory,
I
backpedal.
think it's too easy, though, also, for him to go back in time, like, during some...
Oh, certainly. But it always is. He can always do that. He always has that as a fallback. If he needs to go in.
I don't mean, like, literal go back in time. I mean, like...
Well, yeah.
Like, go back to...
You never know.
The training, like we talked about earlier, and say... One night when they were training, Shadis snuck out and went to meet with Grisha, and they talked about spoiler things. You know?
You know, that's that. As funny as it sounds, it's not completely implausible. In fact, it's more plausible than it is, you know, not. Like,
I mean, the plausibility and the likelihood.
Would that be, though?
It would be shit. That's what it would be, shit.
Yeah.
Because it would just be like, there was a point where that was okay to bring back Grisha, but at this point you've established such a like Harv said, such a canon of like, okay, he's almost certainly dead. Like, who bought, like, at the same glasses shop, the same glasses, like, the same syringe, or, like, and just showed up and just, alright,
for the... We know that they have weapon tech. We don't know that they have apparel tech, okay?
No, now, I'm gonna say no.
I'm just to add to this, I'm going to read you what the wiki says. I know the wiki is probably not the most reliable source. I'm just because it offers a slightly different perspective. Because, first of all, Grisha is listed as being deceased.
Well, hey, you shouldn't really believe me either.
Well, it's opinions. But apparently, Grisha is deceased. Now, this is only based off chapter 62, pretty much. But also, earlier on, I don't recall which chapter it's in, but what Eren wrote, I think it's on the previous, or one of the previous chapters, so when Eren is in Titan form and they're experimenting on him, and he writes, referring
something
to Grisha. Yeah, but the important parts, of course, are left out, open-ended. But this is the exact quotation, which is kind of false. It's the Titan Eren eats Grisha and gains the abilities of a Titan shifter before reverting to human form and loudly crying at the grisly remains of his father. That's not true. We don't know. Here's what we have to go on, right? We have glasses that are Grisha's glasses, or identical to Grisha's glasses, right? We have a body, but could be anybody.
In the same clothes that Grisha was wearing in the anime.
Well, here's 2 more points. Number 1, what
True, but again, I go back to the color point. We don't know.
Well, it was black.
What if Grisha had a Velma moment, and he lost his glasses and just left the scene?
No, I am not buying that Grisha is like, whoops, I lost my glasses, better go to the glasses shop and get it. And then Eren, you stay in these woods and don't turn into a Titan and eat a Titan, the coordinate, because that'd be really unfortunate. And then he just never comes back from the glasses shop because that guy's a murderer and just like keeps him in his basement. Like, no.
And also, let's talk about the final 2 pages, right? Eren holds the glasses.
We can't go on.
Eren holds the glasses and he like mutters out "father." And also, as he's remembering this, Rod asks him if he remembers his father's sin.
Exactly.
I mean, it's pretty much a given at this point that it will be Grisha. I don't think this is misleading.
I almost forgot what my other point was because of Scotty's awesome joke. That was phenomenal. But back to the point where Harv mentioned that chapter reference where Eren did the thing during the experiment where he wrote that message. Here's a question. Would you need to have so much build-up to this moment if you're just going to confirm it so casually like this?
Yeah, because it's so obvious at this point. It can't be a big reveal because it's like everyone will be, oh, I was expecting that. So it's either going to be a plot twist and it goes so far in the opposite direction that all of this is meaningless and it has, like we said earlier, huge implications on the rest of the plot. Or I don't know. It's again open-ended and it could just go any way. That seems to be the sponsored phrase of this podcast now. It's open-ended. It could go any way.
I think we should endorse that every Grisha conversation that ever happens is something like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Grisha was such a good character that I hope we get information on in the form. He was a good
character. What do we know about him?
No. Like he was a good character in terms of how he was set up, which was he was like the savior.
He was set up.
He was a good archetype, you mean?
Well, who he was built up to be, and I'll explain. Because he was... And also, I'm going to ask a question after this. Remind me to ask a question. But, okay, so Grisha was built up to be, like, the savior of the town. There was, like, remember, an illness, and he was, like, a plague is the word they used, yeah. And he cured that. So he's, like, a popular, like, knowledgeable person. And then he was, like, a father who was about to reveal something to his son. And clearly he's got information that's pertinent to the plot because of the basement. So he was built up to be a good character. So I want to go back and revisit who he was, but only in the form of flashbacks. I don't want to see him anymore, because if he's alive, that's too many implications.
If he's alive, I think it's circumventing way too much evidence to be done well.
Scotty, do you remember... This is going back now. Do you remember the aberrant we did with Sarah, where I talked about how I thought Levi was similar to a character from another show, how I thought he was similar to Itachi or somebody like that? What do you think about the possibility that this is another case of that, except with Grisha being similar to Hohenheim?
Oh, similar to Hohenheim. In what aspect? What are you referring to?
In the aspect that he's a father figure who disappeared for a large portion of the story, then came back and solved a lot of the problems.
No.
Because if Grisha is still alive, I think that's a strong possibility.
If Grisha's still alive, I can see the connection to Hohenheim, because he does seem to have information that is not only pertinent to the plot, but pertinent to the resolution. And in that aspect, he could know and be close to the main villain, whoever that may be. We haven't even... I mean, that's another point we haven't even discussed.
They've both
62 chapters in. We still have no primary antagonist.
Grisha and that person have both been gone for a long period of time. I think it's totally possible they have a connection to each other.
Not even that, though, still. You're not even touched on the point. When you say Grisha and that person isn't even a person. We don't even know who it is. It's nobody at this point.
It's a person, roughly.
Yeah, it's roughly a person slash
entity
people slash thing slash monkey. We don't know.
Are you saying you don't consider Monkey Trouble a person?
Oh, he's probably a shifter. Probably.
Yeah, speaking of which, Monkey Trouble's a thing. How about that explanation?
No, let's... Okay, now it's... This is an aberrant podcast at this point. This isn't even like...
Just to put
this is sidetracked so much.
Just to put the cap on that last little note, when I said Hohenheim, I was referring to the father figure in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Just that the reference didn't get...
I stayed out of that discussion because I haven't seen it.
I didn't want to throw that reference out there without explaining it, just so that people weren't confused. Okay. Are we able now? Is it physically possible for us to get away from Grisha, Rod, and Eren, and Historia?
Sure.
Let's just get away from
I think that is a discussion for another time.
Can we...
As if we didn't discuss it, like, another time.
As if we didn't... Well, we could still talk about the other possible outcomes.
Of course. We could talk about that until our heads were blue, though. I mean, that's this.
We gotta get away from the second half of this chapter.
I have a lot to say about I liked as opposed to both of you, because
go ahead, get us away from this topic.
All right,
Lead us.
I loved one of my favorite parts of this was actually in the first half, where exactly we get more information on him, because I feel like it was so unique the way they developed Zackley's character, and I'm very interested to see where they go from this point, because in almost every other typical high-powered position person in any other anime or manga, like, obviously Zackley, he's like the commander-in-chief essentially of all the armed branches of the army and thereof, so I would assume that he would have a distinct archetype and like personality and objective, which most people in high positions in other animes have. Now, in this one, we see he's more aloof and more self-serving,
which is awesome
in his ambitions.
I love it.
Because he was very, very straightforward with Erwin. And I think even in some of the panels, Erwin's facial expression shows he was shocked as well. To show that Zackley is self-motivated for very selfish and petty reasons, such as, I was their lackey, and I didn't think they deserved to lead, so therefore I went through with this rebellion. And he's like, I think they would actually be better off if they were in power, but I just didn't like them, so I wanted them out.
Yeah, I like that point where I don't think of Zackley as a bad character. I kind of like that idea for having him be that sort of character, but I think his reason is the best aspect of him, where he's basically like, fuck those guys. That's basically his entire reason is, you know what? I don't like those guys. Fuck them. I wouldn't.
And he's a very real character.
Yeah.
But let me reiterate the point though. Well, not reiterate, because I actually didn't bring this point up yet. But when I know that for you at least, Stiller, and for I think a lot of people, they hated the fact that Erwin was painted in the picture of being selfish, and that's the reasons why he wanted the overthrow of the government. However, let's not discount the point that this aspect of Erwin is brought up by Zackley, who we have already established is not the most smart, and he's not presented as like, I know everything, I'm the person who has all the answers. He's presented as someone who's very selfish, who's very self-absorbed. So the fact that he's saying this about Erwin does not at all make it fact. He is spitballing at this point, and Erwin hasn't confirmed nor denied any of this. He's just like, oh, so that's it. Those are your thoughts. And then he just like looks out the carriage. Mm-hmm. There's no confirmation.
And this is the character who's going to console Erwin.
I think Erwin.
If you were going to pick a character who is going to handle Erwin's breakdown, the one time Erwin is probably ever going to have a breakdown because of how strongly tied his emotions have been kept, wrapped up. Zackley's the character that you chose to handle this.
Zackley is such a neutral character as well, because he's on no one's side but himself.
Exactly.
He's not siding with the Survey Corps. He's not siding with the military police. He's doing what suits him best.
He's like a more pissy version of Pixis.
Pretty much, yeah.
He's a very real character, which is something that's odd to see in anime and manga. Is a character that usually it's characters are presented, especially high-ranking characters. Like I'm reiterating because especially those types of characters, they have objectives. They themselves and their self-interests are usually pushed aside, and which is usual for anime and manga, but for real-life individuals, it's practically the opposite, aka Zackley, which is very self-entitled, very self-centered reasons for actions, which is why I love his character.
I want to contrast this character introduction because I love the way Zackley's personality came to be introduced in this chapter, now that we know a little bit about him, in contrast to how Kinney was introduced.
Yes.
Because I'm not a fan of Kinney's character at all, but I wouldn't say I hate him, but Zackley's character got introduced in a more casual way. The approach to it was a more, I don't want to say refined, but more restrained, and like you were given bare information, and it was a real laid-back sort of approach to it, as opposed to Kinney, who was very highly strung with his archetype, and when he went out to execute his actions, he was pretty much to the letter. There's not a whole lot of I mean, personally, I don't find a whole lot of intrigue with Kenny, as opposed to Zackley. I think Zackley got introduced on a better note than Kenny did.
Because Kenny is...
Again, it's just the fact that it's, again, another thing that's difficult to say how Zackley's character will develop, and we know he's going to develop over the course of the next few chapters. But it could go either way, and I'd just like to bring up the point that we went from talking about how grounded in reality and less grounded in reality it's becoming, and we've gone back to talking about now the absolute opposite and how realistic these characters are. Or rather, this character.
Well, that's
exactly.
the difference between...
There's an interesting contrast.
Because the characters, for the most part, with a few exceptions, are all well-defined, and the characters are made to be relatable. And
in some way,
in most cases, there's a real serious attempt at giving some depth to these characters. And that's contrast to the story, where the story doesn't like to explain anything, as we're documented and talking about now. So
that's
that
like
contrast,
power.
that could not be more black and white, the difference.
But yeah, so Zackley, that was a good point that I liked about the first half. And then Erwin, it wasn't much of Erwin even talking, it was more of Zackley, and he was just spitballing on why Erwin did what he did. However, I think Isayama, and I don't know if I'm putting too much faith in the audience, but I feel like Isayama was trying to convey to us that what Zackley was saying may have not been true, because he wanted us to extrapolate from all of the previous events that Erwin was involved with, and for us to realize, oh, well, because he did all of those, let's second guess what Zackley, this new character, is saying.
You can understand why he would do that, though, because it's been quite a while since we've had a character who's had a moment like this that we had to actually take some time to consider. Because a character like Erwin, because somebody like Erwin having a breakdown and having a moment is a big deal. Like, we haven't seen that lately.
Yeah, definitely. It's not been...
We haven't seen that in quite a while, I don't think. So I can understand why he might not trust us to extrapolate on that on our own. But going into that topic, and I'm glad you brought it up, as much as I liked Zackley in his introduction in this chapter, I liked Erwin's moments more, because that character moment for him was super interesting. Man, that was a lot of fun watching big tough guy, big commander leader Erwin by himself almost. Zackley's close enough to him, I guess, that he could actually go through with having this moment to actually stop and think and go, holy shit, man. I love that.
Yeah.
That whole section about Erwin talking about, his second thoughts and all that. I love it. It's amazing.
It's great because we finally get a true insight into the thought process of Erwin, and how instead of him just being there and doing things, we get to see his reasoning and his logic and basically his inner thoughts and feelings for the first time in full. And it's a really interesting depiction of his character, because we don't get to see that side to him ever.
Scotty,
and
Sorry, go ahead.
We finally get to see the sentimental and thoughtful side to Erwin.
It's about damn time too. Scotty, you mentioned earlier that something about that I didn't like the way that he was shown to be in self-interest or something. Could you repeat what that was again?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can have better insight because you are you. So,
well, what I was getting at was that I've had to dance around Erwin's character a lot because he's presented in a way that you're supposed to be able to relate to him having to deal with the citizens giving him crap about
his moral dilemma,
not being a good use of their taxes and all this and that. But at the same time, I've had to argue against Erwin for having selfish motivations at the same time. So I'm kind of at a weird point in regards to his character. So this chapter was like a huge relief for me to get more information to help think more clearly about him. So I actually really appreciate about this chapter.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's nothing, what else is there to say about that?
Well,
We-
I'm not saying
We found something that we agree on.
I'm not saying you should have added to that. I'm just saying that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is, and it's a good thing.
I'm trying to think, what else is there to talk about this chat? I think we beat the second half of this chapter to a pulp.
We beat the shit
Which
out
means
of this
we have
chapter.
to scan.
Yeah, I think we're good to go on to the questions.
Well, there's still a couple things I think in the first half of this chapter we didn't talk about.
Okay. Another thing about the first half is that I like the fact that they mentioned, although I don't know if they'll even touch on this anymore. I think they just mentioned this just to cover the basis that that the revolution wasn't a complete, like, one-sided, oh, thank God. Because the panel, especially, like, the beginning pages, like 5, 6, 7, 8, like, it touches, on how there's some people, especially the aristocrats and the aristocracy, who are very hesitant to take over this new leap because they had their own interests in mind, that the government were, protecting them and such. And there are some people who are like, I don't think that the government's going to completely get away with the old government, and I like how there was, like, conflict there, because obviously if you go into a revolution, it's never one-sided. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be people who
As is the nature of a revolution. Yeah.
So I like the fact that they brought it up.
Yeah, there's even the line where it says the people's emotions must be quite mixed, and that pretty much sums up the whole point. It's just that it's conflict just everywhere. Everywhere you turn.
Pretty well summed up my reaction to this chapter too.
Yeah, mixed. The people's reactions were quite mixed. No, but I don't know if they'll even touch on this point ever again. I think they brought this up just so they can say, like, well, we brought it up. But, like, I don't think there's ever going to be, like, there's not going to be, like, an arc about, like, oh, we're the people who want the old government. Like, that's not going to happen. I don't think.
Speaking of people bringing
I think that would be straying far too much from the core topics, I think,
for sure.
to do a whole chapter on that.
One political arc is well more than enough.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Speaking of bringing it up, though, I like that Niall was in this chapter, even though he didn't do much. I hope Niall doesn't go away, because I want him to stay as a part of the story, because I'm still interested in his character. And I'm still interested to see if he could give us any insight in the future on what the new phase of the military police is going to look like. Because that rebuilding process, I think, would be pretty interesting. Let's get Marlowe back in the military police, and let's see where that goes. I want to see that. Maybe, let's say, Niall hears from somebody that Marlowe and Hitch helped out in making the rebellion a success, and now that the conflict's over, they can go back to the military police and they can get a super high role. Like, they can get a super big promotion.
It seems to me...
I want to read that. I want that to be a thing.
Yeah, it seems to me like the conflict brewing is being used to reintroduce us to old characters such as Niall and Zackley, and show us different perspectives, and really just sort of introduce them as true characters rather than just, people that had a couple of lines to say, and you make an assumption about them. But now they're becoming actual more characters that are very clearly going to have some larger role to play in the coming chapters.
Marlowe could have the most amazing goddamn character story if they actually make it where he rebuilds the military police into a good image just because of what Annie said to him. Oh God, I would be so happy. I would be totally flabbergasted. I could not handle it.
Can I jump in for a second with a tangent that kind of has to do with the second half?
Damn it! Scotty, we can't go back.
No, it'll be a quick point, hopefully. But
it better be.
I was just rereading vaguely, like skimming over the the pages, and on page 23, when it refers back to what his story was doing at the time of the chapel or whatever, it wasn't the exact time. The exact blurb says, this all took place, referring to the chapel being broken down. This all took place just days before Historia's mother was killed by the military police. So,
right, yeah, that's something I picked up on as well.
That means there was still time for that girl to be Historia in the chapel. So, although in the circle, when they show the Royce family praying, his story is not there, but...
Damn it.
Yes.
Nothing can ever be simple, can it? This is why we can't have nice things. It's because nothing is ever simple.
God damn it, Isayama. Can you just confirm something, please?
You know what? Then again, we don't want it to be simple. We just don't want bad reveals.
Yeah.
It could be complex.
Yeah, we'd bash it if it was simple.
Yeah, just not bad reveals. Please don't do mind wipes. Please don't do supernatural stuff. Scotty, I'm still mad at you for arguing about supernatural things.
I don't have a problem with it going slightly supernatural, but
yeah,
I mean, if it gets any further in, if it gets, like you say, if it gets to mind wipes and stuff, then that's when I'm going to start to have a problem with it. But I mean, if it dabbles in it, then it's always dabbled in it, and it makes sense for it to be there in a way, but not for it to go deep into it and completely just throw logic out the window and just explain everything with the supernatural. That would be completely out of character, and I really, really hope it doesn't do that.
Let me make clear that although, like, I was arguing that there were supernatural elements and it may tend to lead in that direction more so going forward, I oppose the mind wipe theory just as fervently as Stiller does.
I know you do. I just
it's
don't
just
like that you had to fight. I don't like that you pointed that out.
No. But it's just because I think it may go supernatural. I don't think that it will go in that direction of mind wipe. It's just that the glowing crystals or whatever are on the walls, and like the hand touch, and therefore memories are brought back. That also pertains to the location. It's just that there will be supernatural elements, but it may not be heavily influenced by the supernatural, which the mind wipe theory would be a heavy influence, so I don't think that would lead down that path. I don't think we're necessarily leading down this topic now.
I think I'm okay with that. I don't think I would die instantly if something supernatural happened. I just don't want it to be something...
But if the mind wipe happened, you'd die instantly.
I would just fucking internally
cease to exist.
I would just spontaneously combust into a million pieces. I couldn't handle it.
What else is there about the first half?
I don't know. It's mainly Owen and Zachary. Yeah, the two of them.
There's a couple scenes with Squad Levi doing stuff, but nothing, I don't think in particular that was interesting.
Nothing.
We going on to questions then?
Unless we want to talk about how Mikasa didn't do anything in this chapter.
No, that's... I don't think a lot of
action is...
You're just picking things at this point. Because nobody in Squad Levi, nobody in Squad 104 did anything.
If I don't say something negative about Mikasa, then I can't get through this podcast. It has to happen. Just let it happen.
She had a lot of stares. A lot of them did.
Harvey, what is your impression of Mikasa? Give me a quick yay or nay.
Up to this point?
Yes, give me a yay or nay. This is a heavy factor in deciding whether you will be around for the rest of this podcast.
The only factor.
I liked her at first, but then she started to irritate me. and just purely for the fact that she just sort of, I don't know, her character just sort of became so one-sided and unchanging. Just a one-trick pony, really, with the whole the Eren protection thing, and it's just give it a rest for just a chapter, just please.
I am literally scared by how much Stiller is enjoying this. Stiller is laughing like a maniac because he enjoys it so much.
Yes, I am a fan of that answer. The future looks pretty bright.
She is a one-trick pony, but I don't know.
That was the best line of that reply. Oh, I got hyped for that line. It was good.
You got hyped for a line, you damn... I hate you so much. I hate you. You got hyped for someone's opinion. Negative opinion. You got hyped for it.
I did.
Alright, questions. I think we're putting
questions. Let's just move on to it before we get stuck on the second half again.
Well, we're gonna have to because some of these questions.
Well, yeah.
So, first question comes from... The first two questions come from Estelindis. Thank you for confirming that I pronounced your name correctly last month, by the way. What do you think of Erwin's self-doubt in the carriage conversation with Zackley? Did we talk about that enough?
This is.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's covered enough earlier on. Because we don't want to retread all the same ground, do we?
To give it a bullet point, it was interesting, and it was needed, and it was a good decision to put it in.
Definitely.
It's good character development for him that you could dive into if you wanted to, and apart from that, it worked pretty well.
And as I said, it shows a side to Owen that we haven't really seen in full before, and it's an interesting side that should be covered, I think, more often, just because it offers a different insight into his character.
Next question. Are you inclined to believe that Rod had good reasons for everything he did so far?
I think we went over that, too.
I think
we actually did.
I think we touched on that a little bit.
Anti-villain, anti-hero.
I think
again, it's just like to bullet point it. It's just sort of we don't know at this point. It's completely speculation. He could be lying. He could be telling the truth. We're only going off testimony and no actual complete evidence.
Well, it's not only that we don't know enough. It's also that even if we know that he's lying, or even if we know he's telling the truth, do we care? What do we? Do we care? Do we believe that lie, or do we believe that truth to be for whatever reason they say it's for?
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like
question. You had another point?
No, I was gonna say I feel like every month when we do this podcast and we get to the question section and someone asks about like what do we think about this supposedly, we're always just like, we don't have enough information, because we never do. We never have enough information to answer these theories.
Well,
that's what the first hour of this podcast was.
We don't know
anything about anything.
But even with different animes and mangas, at least, and I was talking to you still, I think about this on an offhand conversation we had, which is like other animes and mangas, when you foreshadow, when you theorize, you notice a much different pattern, because there is a lot of heavier, more certain implication, whereas with Attack on Titan it's much more ambiguous and like,
yes, definitely,
and much more like anything could happen. So that's why I think even with this more so than others, it's like the theories are just usually, even the answers are like not even guessable, like they involve components that are just been introduced. So it's like
funny. It's often that these theories will come out and people will immediately dismiss them as impossible, and then the answer will be stranger than 90% of the theories.
Yeah, and it'll be an answer that is unobtainable because it'll involve a component that has not yet been discovered. So it'll be like we couldn't even guess that if we tried. It's like, damn.
Just to be clear, I love that people try and have these discussions, though.
Oh yeah, and I have these theories too.
Yeah.
Because I feel bad. I've felt pretty bad lately that I've been absent from so many like theory threads and so many different conversations about plot, and characters in plot that we don't know anything about. Because months and months back, I used to be more involved when people would talk about that stuff. I just can't do it now. I don't go into these threads anymore because. What am I supposed to say? It's just like you said. We don't know anything about anything. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's like I could just go into every theory thread and say, okay, well, maybe, OP. Maybe.
maybe. All right, next question. Maybe. Yeah, next question.
Well, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, I know.
You're not wrong.
After a while, it's just like, the maybes get tedious.
Yeah.
And monotonous. But yeah.
Next question.
Which is a multi-question.
Right. Multi-question from Angriest Unicorn. He is the angriest of all the unicorns. Okay. Something I noticed. When was the last time Connie had any lines?
Alright.
That's a good question. I like that question. When was the last time Connie had spoken dialogue?
It's you see. I can answer this as a Connie answer.
I hope you can.
He is such an animated person that all can be explained through his body language and his facial expressions, and he has so many thoughts that are just stewing. but he's so intelligent that he can't even explain it to anybody there, because his thinking is so higher order than everybody else.
How does somebody so intelligent have such a hard time articulating thoughts?
No, he can articulate them, but no one will understand because they're so intellectual.
Well, that's the point of articulating it, is so that you can convey it properly for people to understand.
But you can't convey properly. Could you tell a story to an ant and get it to understand it?
But he's not talking to other species. He's talking to other humans.
But he's so smart. All right, well, this was a joke, and you're taking it too seriously. You're taking it way too seriously.
Yeah, because I don't want you to win this.
There's no winning. It was a joke, buddy.
The winning is that you feel bad because...
I don't. I will never feel bad because Connie wins, and that's all. That's all there is to it.
I'm just sat watching this beautiful event play out in front of me.
Connie's just, oh my god, I can't wait. He's gonna survive this entire series. If Connie ever dies, I'm not even gonna go on the next podcast. I'll just I'll have to skip it because I'll be crying.
I'm glad to know that ahead of time.
You're just
gonna just go into a hole and just hole up there for the rest of eternity.
Honestly, I mean, seriously, I'm not sure he's ever gonna do anything ever again.
What do you... Shut up. You have no idea. He's going to...
You would have a hard time convincing me he's ever going to have an important part again.
I don't have to convince you. Isiya's going to convince you when he writes him in as the savior.
Good luck.
There's no luck involved. It's all tactics. It's written already.
I wish you luck, Scotty.
Like I said.
You backed a one-legged horse, I think. Because he's got some work to do.
Number 2, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. Do you think Mikasa knew what happened to Grisha?
Well, it's hard to tell because she didn't do a damn thing in this chapter that would have helped us answer the question.
Stop it. Number 1, you're bitching on Mikasa has reached a maximum. It has clearly there's no reason why Mikasa would just not say anything to Eren. Oh, by the way, Eren, I saw you eat your father. That was a bummer, wasn't it?
Well, the reason they say that is because they think Mikasa's trying to not destroy his mind by telling him.
No. Oh my god. Could you imagine if just how the Bertolt and Reiner revelation, you just saw, in a very far away speech bubble, Eren, let's talk. And it's Mikasa's oh, buddy, talking to Eren. And then he was just I saw you eat your father. No, there's no way that could possibly happen.
I don't know,
Mikasa
man.
Such a boring character.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No, but okay, so Stiller, walk this line with me. Because she's such a boring character, Isiya wouldn't write in for her such an important, emotional, state of conversation.
He would if he believes in her character. We don't believe in her, but he might.
I would say
we don't know that.
Well, let's add on top of that, okay? Mikasa is the one who does all the cool action guy scenes, and she's the one who gets shit done when shit needs to get done. If this is a situation,
for instance, this chapter is a perfect example.
Yeah, if this is a situation where something needs to get done, and it doesn't need to be done smoothly, she's perfect for doing it. And I think telling Eren that he ate his father would be a perfect job for her.
Nah, that would... If she did that, I'd be why? Why are you writing this in right now?
But it's totally possible that if she told him that, he would just freak out.
Just kill her right there. What?
Maybe.
I'm joking.
I would be okay with that. I wouldn't object to that.
I wouldn't object to it. I just don't think it would happen. Just simply for the fact that she's a one of the core protagonists.
Well, hey, the main character, one of the main 3, one of the top dog characters is one that we can sit here and say, this is kind of boring.
Yeah, it would be. You could argue that is on purpose and setting up for something like her death.
People have been arguing, but it doesn't help.
Because you could say, well, we are purposely being led to dislike her character, and so we can. The payoff will be greater. Why would
you purposely make a character dislikable by making them boring instead of making a character dislikable because they're dislikable?
Yeah, that's the thing. That it's done in such a way that I don't know whether it's believable or not to argue that.
If she makes a turn where she becomes interesting later, sure, that's fine. That doesn't help me right now, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Aaron will obviously be going through a mental breakdown. Do you think the rest of the cast will be able to handle it and help him through it?
Well, it's pretty obvious, yes, because if not, then there wouldn't be, like... I mean, clearly there's gonna have to be some resolution either through himself and through, like, self-realization or through, I don't know. Like,
to me, I feel it would have to be done in a different way to them of how we've seen it before, because we've seen him go through several mental breakdowns and such. That it needs to be changed up. The formula needs to be altered, because otherwise it's just going to be the same old thing where Eren has a depression bout, and then the rest of the characters assure him that everything's going to be okay, and then he's finally okay again, and then rinse and repeat. And it needs to be done in such a way that provides more insights in. I don't want to say into his character, because we have enough insight into Eren's character. He's the protagonist, and we've been getting insight into Eren's character since the first panel, pretty much. So it's just, it needs to be changed a little for it to be interesting, rather than the same way we've seen it before.
Here's how it'll happen. When they get Eren back, they're going to let Eren have a little conversation with Jean. And Jean is going to have a conversation with Eren that he has every other time he talks to Eren, where he beats him up.
Sasha's going to interrupt with, like, lizards and stuff, and then...
Not that particular conversation.
Oh, no.
That's an example of one.
Best OVA of all time.
But the idea is going to be, he'll sit down with Jean, Jean will beat him up, sort of, and say, look at the self-pity and the, trying to deal with this stuff, just basically nut up and deal with it and let's him move on. That's basically what John's done with him. But him or Levi both could do that. I don't think it'll take much to get him over this.
Or Mikasa.
I think it'll take maybe 2 chapters to get him over this.
Just want to ignore that, huh?
Is that we done like that, Christian?
I guess that's about right.
Yeah,
what were you saying, Scotty? Something about Mikasa?
No, I was saying, or it could be done with Mikasa, like how she consoles him, and like everything will be alright.
I don't understand how she's able to do that, though.
Well, I mean, she's like always the protector, so this is just another way of her protecting him.
It's
mentally.
like she has some sort of weird ability where she's just able to calm him just because they have a relation. Yeah. Weird.
Next question, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Next question from... Next question from
Keep it in for the matter.
Econixis? That's probably right. Why would
Professionalism.
That's right. Why would Grisha prefer to die and give his powers to a 10-year-old clueless child rather than live and use them himself? That is... And that's...
another thing we don't have enough information to say.
Well, not only that, but that question's taking an assumption and having us follow that assumption.
Yeah, which we've already discussed.
Which we can't agree with, because...
A lot.
Well, let's... For conversational purposes, let's assume that his assumption is correct.
Yeah, let's just... Okay.
And I would say there are actually a good amount of reasons why Grisha may want to give his powers to his son, which is, number one, we don't know how Eren became a Titan, probably by the injection, and if so, was there a reason why Grisha was willing to get eaten, as in his life was going to come to an end anyway?
Well, wait a minute.
Perhaps he was hunted. Perhaps.
How do we know that Grisha wanted this, though? We don't.
Hold on, wait a minute. Scotty, you just said he became a Titan by the injection.
No,
by the
I
serum.
said assumedly. I don't. Calm down, Stiller. Calm down.
Well, this is an important detail. Did he get turned into a Titan by the serum, or was it because he ate his father?
No. You have to be a Titan. But how could he eat his father whole as a child? No, he had to be a Titan previously. Clearly.
So.
Well, then what was the point to eating him?
To gain his ability.
But he didn't...
But he'd been given... was the injection just to turn him into a Titan? And then the ability he obtained from Grisha was to have the freedom to switch back and forth?
And also the coordinate.
Yes, right. Which is, again, unexplained
kind of
as of yet.
shaky.
I mean, I think
It
that's
is.
led to believe, though.
Right.
But I think we already talked about a lot of that stuff already, so I think we can go ahead and move on to the next question.
We definitely, like you said, we beat that horse
Right.
to death and further.
So the next question is, what do you guys think will happen with Erwin? And in parentheses, it has all the stuff that could potentially happen to Erwin. Coming from Anon. Good old Anon. I think we've talked about Erwin quite a bit.
And this also goes in the area of too many possibilities, too little to go on.
Well, if Erwin... Okay, I talked earlier about how this was kind of a rare moment for somebody like Erwin to have this kind of scene. So I think it's pretty likely, let's say, that he's not going to have any issues recovering from this. Just because he's too busy to suffer from something like this.
For sure.
Next question, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
If you had to switch places with one living character who was active during this arc for the rest of the story, who would it be?
See, this is finally a question that we haven't touched the answer on already.
It's an abstract question, which is nice. And this is coming from Raidlets. Raidlets. Thank you, Raidlets. One character. Well, it's obvious who Scotty's gonna pick.
No, I'm not gonna pick Connie.
Oh, you're not.
No, Connie.
Are you not?
Really? I'm not as brave as Connie. I'm not a soldier.
As brave
I'm not
as
fighting.
Connie.
But the whole point is that you're switching places. You're not.
Connie would become Scotty. Do you realize that?
Oh,
what do you mean?
Dear.
This would mean that you would become Connie and Connie would become Scotty. I'm talking to Connie right now.
No, well, I don't. Well, it's irrelevant at this point what Connie would be because I'm not thinking based on where Connie will end up. I'm thinking, or the character I'm choosing. I'm thinking about where I am. I would have picked Connie because, well, first of all, I don't care if he ends up in my place. Like, that's irrelevant to me. It's all about where I'm going. And I wouldn't...
You're a selfish bastard,
No,
aren't you?
no. Well, it's a fictional character that doesn't exist. I don't care where a drawing ends
You're making him real. He's going to take over your life.
Yeah, okay, well, it's not my life anymore.
You're going to become fictional.
Yeah, he's no longer a part of, I'm no longer a part of the real world, so I don't care if he enters my body and becomes in the real world.
Still being a jerk, though. Like, you're just not even making any considerations about the life he would have to take over.
Hey, anybody from the Attack on Titan universe would be better off in this world because
they would be, but how are they going to? They're going to be Captain America, basically. Where they come in?
Are you saying I'm Captain America?
No,
is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not.
I heard it. Have you heard that, right?
No.
He called me Captain America.
Yeah, I heard that.
I said they would basically become Captain America, Kara, because
they assume my position.
They assume your position, but they they're not familiar with this world. They're not familiar with the technology, and they have considerations to make coming into
Stiller, I can't think about that because every single character I'd possibly pick would have that problem. So that's an irrelevant problem. I can't get around it.
That's true. So deal with it.
No, so I don't have to deal with it is the point. There's no getting around it, so I can't possibly think about it.
You should pick a character who you think would adapt the best to it.
Connie he can camouflage, who can adapt. Alright. But I wouldn't pick him. Yo, you gotta calm down immediately. No. But, no, I wouldn't pick Connie. That's the entire point. Because I'm not a soldier and I don't want to be put in the position of having to fight Titans. I'm not that brave. I would want to take the position of Zachary. Because Zachary is the head of the army. He's in a very cushy position, probably making a lot of money, probably not having to deal with any real combat situations, and he's always surrounded by guards and always protected. So therefore, he's in the cushiest and also the most safe position. No one better than Zachary right now.
So you fought me on the accusation that this was a selfish motivation, and then you followed it up with that reply.
It's not selfish in terms of I want a lot, it's just I want to be safe, and Zachary's the safest. I mean, the fact that he's also probably loaded is just a bonus.
I think it pretty well stands for itself. I think I don't really have to follow that up.
No. Who would you pick, huh? Who would you pick?
I haven't given it any thought.
What? So you're judging me and you haven't given it any thought? And you're judging me.
Hey, the problem for me is that my favorite character isn't available for this question.
Well, anyone who's not dead, so she's available.
No, it says during this arc, and he's not in this arc.
That's true.
So I don't know. Harv, do you have an
At
answer
least
for this?
not. At least not yet. I would probably pick Marlowe but only with the condition that he gets the arc we were talking about. Well, not necessarily the arc, but he gets the development we were talking about earlier for him, with him rebuilding the entire military police to have morals. Just because it's such a, I don't know, it'd be such a fun development for his character that it would just tie lots of threads together so nicely for the military police. And, like, personally, it would be interesting to see how my actions rebuilding the military police would play out and affect the rest of the world around.
I really like that answer. I think it's an amazing answer.
Oh yeah,
Thank
hate my answer, but Harv, great answer, thanks.
It was, though. You can't beat that. So, he did buy me enough time to think about it also.
Alright, what's your answer, huh? Let's hear it.
My second favorite character. My second favorite character is Jean. So I would pick Jean.
But think about how Jean would be in your place. Would he adapt in this world?
I did think about that. And
He's
Jean
had some very conflicting personality traits, and he's been not adapting even well in his world with how he lost Marco, and he had a very tough time with that.
Jean
if he can't adapt properly in his world, how will he adapt in this world?
Jean has demonstrated that he has the ability to step up when the time requires it. In a situation where he has to now fend for himself and figure shit out.
It took a lot of time for him to get to that position. A lot of time.
True, but now that he's at this position, there's no problem with me swapping.
Yeah. So he built very high in the Attack on Titan universe, that position, over a long period of time. And now he's dropped in this world with no time to adapt, with no time to adjust to the situation,
and
with no friends, because he adapted previously because of friends. He didn't adapt.
He can't make new friends. He'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, he's going to make new friends in the 21st century, huh?
That's true.
Yeah,
of all the characters
we're going to get into this discussion.
Of all characters, all the characters that I could pick, Jean.
I'd be interested to see, then, like, for my side of the argument for Marlowe, how would he fare in the present day in the real world?
He would hang out with Jean, and they would be the best.
Oh, shut your damn mouth. You horrible person.
Me and Harv both picked good characters who would be able to adapt very well.
You don't think Zachary could adapt in this world? Are you kidding me?
No.
Zachary would adapt the best. Don't even give me that. Zachary would adapt the
Zachary could adapt well.
Zachary's already like in his 60s. He has no pension to draw from.
What?
He's got
no.
10 years
Oh
to
my
live.
god. Are you doing this right?
Okay, we're going deep now.
10 years to live? Are you fucking kidding me? Dude,
I
alright.
said he was like 65 years old. He's probably only going to live 10 years longer.
That's not... Okay, number one, that's horrible you would say 10 years. Number two...
Hey, what's the average life expectancy, guy?
Didn't we just get done discussing how Zachary's the most realistic character? That he would adapt perfectly in this world. And if he went on, like, going all crazy about the Titans, they would just say he's senile because he's old. So he would fit right in. If you saw Jean going, oh, look at this, where the Titan is, then he would be in an insane asylum. Here, Zachary's in a comfy senior citizens home, retirement center.
I'm gonna side with you on this one, because it makes a lot...
You think Zachary is going to sit in a retirement home and be okay with that?
No, well, he's a pretty chill dude.
No. It's just his cynicism and his outlook on just existence in general. He would be able to fit in well, because he would be able to adapt to whatever situation there is, and still have the same bleak outlook on it.
I can still throw the same argument back at Scotty, though, because Zachary going into this situation, he wouldn't be able to deal with this because he just come from a world where he had established himself, and he probably worked for years getting to where he was.
That's a mute point, though, because every character in Attack on Titan would have the same argument and the same situation.
Well, the difference between Zachary and Jean is that Zachary probably worked for like 30 or 40 years to get where he is, and you just throw that shit out the window when you pick him. With Jean, the only thing I'm throwing out is that he had development.
Exactly's had experience in life, more so than any other character. He knows the ups and downs.
He doesn't have time to rebuild that life, is the problem.
No, he doesn't need to. He doesn't. Number one,
he's not coming into this with a high position. He's coming into it as a common person.
Yeah, everybody is. Everyone's coming to it as a common person.
True, but John has a better advantage coming into this situation because he's still so young.
No, he's young, therefore his entire life and everything up to his developmental stages. Yeah, Zachary has had time in a position that wasn't involved in constant fear of Titan attacks. He's been sitting comfortably, or probably behind a desk, just directing orders, which has been done in this lifestyle. Here, Jean, he's like a day ago, he almost got eaten by a Titan. He's suffered from PTSD to the max. We already seen Zachary, he's dealt with it. He's already coped with all the situational prowess and all the situational stress that's been involved. And he's proven that he's survived with it. So he's an already good person to survive in a situational environment that is stressful, hence coming over it. Now, John has already gone through trials and tribulations, and he hasn't even handled it well. And he just, a couple days ago, was fighting Titans, and now, all of a sudden, he's thrown into a new world. And now, all of that stress, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know if this is a trick. Zachary would be more adaptable in that environment.
When Zachary comes over, he has to climb the ladder again that he already climbed.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
No.
He's
Because
not coming
Zachary,
over and automatically assuming the position of like a CEO or something.
Of course, you are assuming that Zachary wants to climb the ladder or has the desire. Zachary has already shown that he's the type of character that's already chill enough.
It's too late for him.
But how is he? How you say that he has all this experience and he's done all this and he's done all that? He can't just live. He has to have some source of income. He has to have some source of resource for him to draw from.
All of the conversations, all of the points you've brought up pertain to every single character.
They do,
it's not
they
specific
work better.
to
They work better for the character that I picked than the one that you picked.
No, it doesn't. Zachary is a wise leader. He could get a job. He won't be content with any job in his
work
position
for a decade before he dies.
Number one, your points are so mute. They don't make sense. I hate you. You're being gosh. Oh. I think hard.
Yep.
You do you see my point?
Yes, I do. I side with you on this one.
Oh, damn it. I'm fine though. I am still gonna hold my position.
I'll summarize half of Stiller's argument. He's gonna die in a decade. Okay. Like, no.
I'm okay with that summarization because it's true. You know what the average life expectancy is, Scotty?
I do, but do you know what it's gonna be in a couple years? Much higher.
What, like 2 years higher? Ooh, big fucking deal.
No, I would say at least a third of all the people I know live past 80. Easily. Yeah. My grandmom's 92.
You must be lucky then. You must know the lucky people.
I am. I'm part of the lucky people.
Lucky you.
My family, at least.
Raidlets. Great question.
That was a good question. We're gonna have to get off it though, because otherwise it's just gonna be
fantastic question.
It's gonna be the same. It's a very good question though.
We need more
interesting
of those
discussion.
Questions. We need questions to be like, if you were gonna suplex a character, which character would it be? I want to answer that question. Someone submit that next month.
And what's funny is that question we just answered had in parentheses, just curious, only if you have extra time. No, we fit that in when we didn't have extra time. And we still spent too much time on it.
Oh, it was... You can't deny, though, Scotty. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah, I like that. That was fun.
Okay. Next question. Who do you think was the blonde female Titan? Why do you think Rod was the sole survivor of the attack? Let's stop there first.
We've been through this.
This is a multi-part question, so I'm going to stop there.
I think there are way too many questions. We can't rehash all of them. I think we answered both those questions.
I don't think we're going to rehash all of them. We can give bullet points on this, though. The blonde female Titan...
Summarization
of the first two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't actually say who we thought it was. We just sort of said, well, it could be...
Could be Astoria. Probably Astoria if looks are any indication. and it fits the timeline, and she's also part of the family, so it would make sense.
Do we know of any other blondes in the Rice family other than Historia's mother?
We don't know of...
It's obviously not Geographia.
Yeah,
Right.
well, we know that much.
By the way, how many of you guys are going to continue to call her Geographia instead of Frida?
Now,
Both
I
of
guess
you?
it's gonna be Friday, but I'm gonna forget her name very quickly.
Because we already have a name for her already.
Yeah, it's once we've established a name, it's very hard to shake it.
Alright,
But
next set of questions here. What
Yeah.
do you think Kanye is going to do?
Kanye.
Kanye West, the new titan.
Says Kanye.
What is Kanye gonna do? Well, he's probably gonna release a new album. I'm gonna assume. And
Are we supposed to take this to mean Kanye then? Or...
I don't know if it's supposed to be Kanye or Kenny.
no,
Yeah.
it's probably Kenny. It's probably
spelled with a K, not a C.
yeah.
Oh, so Kanye or Kenny.
It says.
Okay, I see. Not Kanye.
It's spelled Kanye though.
Well,
HK47 of all people would.
if
Kanye.
I retract my statement about Marlowe. I'm gonna switch with Kanye. That's who I'd be.
I'm gonna refer to him as Kanye from now on. Sure.
Just imagining the absurdity of the situations that would play out through this.
And then the next question we answered to: do you think Mikasa knows something? No, I don't think so. Does anybody else think so? Wow, Stiller is really in it.
Stiller, are you okay?
Because of this, he's taking that hard.
Please leave all this in, uncut, please.
Okay,
Stiller
deep
has
breath.
lost it.
Well, okay then, sure. Kanye.
Okay.
Okay. Professionalism.
I'm okay.
I don't think you are.
Are you sure?
No.
I just need to mention Kanye again and you're off.
It was the idea of saying I want to switch places with Kanye in the world.
Be far more interesting than anyone else.
For sure.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
I literally I could have died just then.
I felt it. I felt the pain. Your sides probably hurt from all that laughing.
My god. Next question. Oh man.
Who is the Rice Titan? That's the same.
Yeah, we just did that one.
Yeah.
Do you think Historia saw anything while Eren was going through his memory montage?
Yeah.
Montage.
I don't. It all depends on what the
Potentially.
how the power was transferred. I think it was assumed that the memory sparkage was due more so to the location than to the people. So because of that,
Right.
because of that, I would doubt that she would have seen any of it.
Yeah.
Because, and also, to add credence to that point, are you still laughing about the comment? I hear you in the background chuckling about it.
I'm still trying to recover, okay? I need a minute.
But also, to add to the point about, oh my god, are you serious?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Stiller, please.
Hey, I'm gonna mute myself for a minute here. Go ahead.
Stiller,
You need to recover.
Jesus, Lord of mercy. But,
Well, continue.
but also, he literally muted his mic. And also, another point to why I think neither of them know, Rice or Historia, is because Rice asks the question, now do you remember what your father did? At the end.
Yeah.
So that's as if he doesn't know. And if Rice doesn't know, then Historia probably doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like he's prompting him to remember, basically.
Yeah.
To add to that, the last panel in the chapter had Historia holding her head sort of like Mikasa's done in the past when something's happened. She kind of held her head after the fact, and it looked like she had some sort of discomfort from the process. So I think she had some sort of transfer effect like Mikasa did, or not Mikasa, Rod did, and probably didn't gain anything from it since it was a transfer.
So we're going to say no then to that question.
Right.
All right. Why did Grisha...
It is a very important question that no one knows the answer to yet.
It's true. Next one. Why did Grisha murder the entire Rice family? Well, that's also implying that it was Grisha, but let's go again on the assumption that it was, just for the purpose of this question.
Is there any proof that it is Grisha? Is there a lot of evidence to suggest?
There's not proof. I'm just going off the fact that that Rice Rod said, like, to Eren, "Do you know the sins of your father?" Which I took to be the chapel breaking down and killing them.
Right, okay.
Which it might not be. It could be anything. It could be that this wonder drug that he made is some sort of...
I don't think...
It's a humanity.
I don't think Rod would know that, though.
Would he not? Do we know that he was in cahoots?
We don't know, but we also have no idea, no implication, no reason to believe so.
Also, the fact that it was a Titan attack may add to the fact that it was Grisha, because, well, assuming that he has the powers that we know of.
I feel like for all of these, we have to preface everything with assuming, because everything's
we do.
At this point.
Do you think there is a connection between the underground chapel's crystal-like walls and Annie's crystalline protective skin?
Well, that goes.
You brought this up.
I specifically brought this up, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. We don't even know if it's a crystal, though. To be perfectly fair.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I said about colors,
guy, and you shot me down for it.
No, because you said it could be veins or something, is what you said.
Yeah, which is not the same thing. Which is the point I raised, guy.
I agree with it, guy. What do you
know? Earlier you disagreed with me.
No. You were going off that it wasn't supernatural. That's what you said.
No, I said that it was flesh, like tendon-like thing instead of crystal, and you were like, no, it doesn't look like that. And now you're like, yeah, I could see that.
Because I'm talking about the crystal. No.
I was too.
Flesh-like and crystal-like are 100% different.
Yeah, I know. I said that.
Okay, then I agree with you. Oh my god, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Oh my god.
Professionalism. What is the purple? What is the purple?
What is the purple?
Okay. What is the purpose?
Kanye.
What is the purpose?
God.
What is the purpose of the chapel / its basement, and why was it immediately?
What the hell? Its basement? What? Did I miss?
Is there a reference to a basement?
And that's people have been speculating that the area they're in, the cave, is actually a basement. Maybe it's the basement of the chapel.
Oh.
Maybe it's the actual basement.
No, it's not the actual basement.
No, it's not. It's not the basement.
If it was the actual basement, then those crystals are much more important than we made them out to be.
Yeah, definitely, but it isn't. I find it highly unlikely that it's the basement.
Well, the idea behind that is, you're still expecting to hear about the basement, but guess what? You've already been there. Not saying I agree with it, but
I'm not buying it.
I understand it.
Yeah, I can see the argument. I just don't agree with it. Oh, I see the basement. I see. In the, I'm not sure what page it's on, but there's a panel just where Eren begins to remember. There are shown steps leading down that are evidently within the chapel. But it's not explicitly stated that it's to a basement or anywhere in particular. There's just stairs.
I think it's an interesting thought. I kind of like that speculation. It's an interesting point to bring up. Next question. With some revelation in this chapter concerning Grisha, do you have any more ideas / predictions as to what is in the basement? So, did this chapter make it any more clear for you what could be in the basement?
Not really. I have to say I don't think anything really.
Nothing.
Maybe I've just missed things, but
I don't think anything that was revealed in this chapter helped at all.
Yeah,
I can't really think of anything.
Not at all. Although I will say that, I mean, we already knew, we were already basing our previous assumptions of what could or couldn't be in the basement off of Grisha knowing more than he's let on. But now that we actually know that he had an understanding, that our assumptions were confirmed that whatever's in the basement is most likely of importance. very significant importance. I know that it was pretty obvious to everybody, but like at least now we have confirmation that it's not going to be like, oh, I left you a birthday present, or like something that was really, because there was a lot of speculation that what was in the basement was going to be of significance, like emotionally to Eren, but not to the plot. But now I feel like that there's confirmation that the plot will be developed more so because of what's in the basement. Because Grisha actually knew about pertinent information regarding Titans.
I always believed that from the moment that Erwin gave the speech, like when Erwin was giving his speech in the anime to the people joining the Survey Corps, when he talked about Eren's basement, he said that to everyone. So I assumed at that point that because they're involving everyone, that it has to be plot specific and not character specific. In retrospect, I think that was the wrong route to believe, because I think you interpreted it more realistically, Scotty.
Wait.
Yeah.
Didn't we already cover what was in the basement earlier? It's Isayama writing manga.
Oh, it's true. Absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next question. What are your thoughts on all of the mind-warping theory transfer shenanigans, and do you think it is possible for Isayama to explain it in a reasonable, non-bullshit way?
So the first part I think we answered.
I hope so. I hope
so.
so.
You guys know I submitted this question.
Did you really?
No, I didn't.
I think that it would be almost impossible to incorporate the mind wipe theory in a appropriate manner that would jive well with where the current stand-in of the manga has been, because there are so many open, like, we haven't experienced at all any powers that regular humans have besides Eren and his ability to control Titans while seemingly out of Titan form. However, even that kind of stretched the boundaries of what we knew, and that was like groundbreaking in terms of, okay, so humans have abilities as well. And I think the mind wipe theory would have too many implications, again, because, going back to that point, due to the fact that if you could mind wipe people and then you could turn into a Titan, then what? Couldn't you mind wipe someone in the middle of a fight and just be like, okay, well now you don't know where you are, so I'm going to beat you up? It's just like it just seems ridiculous to the point where there'd be too many plot holes that the person would be way too OP.
Too much circumventing would be taking place. Yeah.
Is it possible for Isayama to explain it in a non-bullshit way? If you ask me, no. But my thoughts on the my thoughts on the mind wipe theory are synonymous with the way the question phrased it, which is that it's bullshit. I don't like it.
I mean, I don't think so, but I hope so. Essentially, is my view on it. I mean, I hope that Isayama comes up with an intelligent way to explain it, but at this point, I don't see it being very plausible at all.
Okay. Next question. Since it appears that Grisha stole the coordinate power from the Rice family, why do you think he thought they shouldn't have that power? So the question is, why would Grisha say that the Rice family shouldn't have the power? Yeah.
Well, probably because the Rice family would use it for selfish reasons, or because they may be in cahoots, since we don't know why they're in... What are you laughing about?
Oh, I love that we're using the word cahoots.
it's part of my vernacular. But, I don't know. I think that they may be in cahoots with nefarious people because they're the shadow government, essentially. And it's like, what do you have to hide? Why aren't you the legitimate family, like, in power? And why do you need Fritz to be the figurehead? That means that they're probably doing some shady business. And, I mean, why would you want someone with all the power to control Titans, also be in nefarious business? So I think that kind of answers itself.
Between Rod and Grisha, I want to go back to what we talked about earlier for the definitions of an anti-hero and an anti-villain. These two go in between those two terms. I think they're interchangeable. One version of that picture between who's the anti-villain and who's the anti-hero is probably correct, and that's probably the reason why one didn't want the other to have it. Does the fact that the cave is covered with crystals mean anything? How is Keith Shadis involved in the memory sequence?
I think we already...
But this is a question that's referencing what I mentioned earlier, that people saw Keith somewhere in the flashback sequence.
Do we have any confirmation of what panel they were referring to?
No, it doesn't say.
The memory sequence.
So we could just, like we did with some of Grisha's questions earlier, assume that this was true. What are the implications of Keith being in some of those flashbacks related to Erwin? I keep wanting to say Erwin. To Aaron and Grisha. How is Keith connected, basically?
We don't know at this point.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time we saw him?
Shadis, oh my god. The last time he was relevant was like the beginning. Honestly.
All the way back to the beginning.
I don't know.
Let's see. I think the last arc he was in was
training.
Apparently he is in the flashback towards the end, in a crowd.
Oh, in a crowd. So that's again these BS.
Hey, now we don't know if they're BS. If he was actually there, it might be important or it might not be. We don't know.
I don't think Isayama, although he's clever and he likes to troll people, I don't think he's super clever in terms of, I showed this character in a crowd, so therefore he's very relevant. It's like,
I agree with that view, because I think if it were true that was an important scene, then that would mean every kitchen character still possibly has some sort of relevance.
Like, I'm looking right now at the first page, and I swear I see in the crowd Geographia, and I'm not even joking. I swear, but I know it's almost definitely not. Like, look at where it says page 2 to 1 on Crunchyroll. Look at the bottom left panel, and look at the person to the left of the third person in black with the aristocrat, with the the country hat. That looks like Geographia to me. But it's like, that's not clearly Geographia. But, someone can make an argument that it is, and it's like, oh, what are the implications there? That she's alive. But it's like, you're just making things up.
It is.
Yeah. At the same point, it doesn't hurt for us to make an assumption just for the sake of answering the question. And, obviously, like we've mentioned, the only route that we can take that is that we don't know, because we don't have any more information that would help us draw a plan out for that. The timing of Grisha's assault on the church must be connected in some way to the Colossal and Armored Titan's assault on the outer walls. Why, of all the times, would he decide to murder the Rice family then? What do we think about that?
Well, wait, I don't think they're connected at all.
That's the question, though, is that if the breach of Wall Maria happened at the same time as this murder of the Rice family, what's the connection there?
Does there have to be a connection?
I think for the purpose of this question, there has to be.
Right.
Like, in order for this question to be answerable, you have to assume there is a connection. And I would, if there was a connection, which, let me say I don't think so, but for the purpose of this question, if there was, that would imply that Grisha was working with Reiner and Bertolt, and then that would imply Grisha was evil, which would make none of this have any sense, because then why would you give your son, who's going to be good, the Titan power? So no, I don't even think this question makes any sense.
How does he know his son's going to be good?
Because he gave him no reason to be bad. He would have told him to be bad. He told his son to be moral, and he's like, I'm going to show you something in the basement. And he's like,
because you don't give someone reason to be evil doesn't mean they're not going to be evil.
An evil character who wants his son to go on...
Did Grisha know that he was going to be eaten? Because some of the past discussions we've had is that Grisha willfully gave himself up to be eaten. But if that's the case, why would he tell Eren that he's going to show him the basement?
Because circumstances changed, and he didn't know that the walls... Oh, and that further supports that this question makes no sense. Because... No, but... You know where I'm going.
Goddamn Scotty's over here, attack on the questions.
No, because... Tell me
questions.
Tell me if this doesn't make any sense, because I think it makes sense. Is that if Grisha knew about, or was working in cahoots with the Colossal Armored Titan, he would know that the walls were about to be breached. Therefore, why would he tell his son, I'm going to show you the walls, when he knew, not the walls, I was going to show you what's in the basement, when he knew full well that his house was about to be demolished? and the area was going to be a quarantine zone. Like, clearly, that doesn't follow logical thought.
I also don't agree with the connection, but at the same time, actually following the assumption through makes it hard to continue the argument because, it devolves into different interpretations. Which makes
I doubt a connection. Yeah.
So, on either end, it becomes hard to answer the question, just because making assumptions in itself is hard to keep up with the interpretations for between multiple people.
Next question.
How will Aaron's realization that he ate his father further affect him as a character as well as to his future judgments and decisions?
We've answered this pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Have we?
Well, we know he's going to go into a breakdown.
That's all we really mentioned, though. Is it how is he going to come out of this and go forward?
Yeah, I think that's the more interesting part of the question.
Right. 10 chapters from now, what is Aaron going to be doing?
I said, I think probably no different, unless Sayama does something in a different direction, which I would like, but I'm not sure whether it's going to happen or not.
I think the only judgment/decision that would be an effect of his future self from the realization he ate his father would be that he might get motivated and he might be more empowered to move forward and progress, and potentially as we see him doing an event that's very important, such as going back and reclaiming the previous walls or whatever, or wall. He might have a flashback of his father, how he's oh, I love my father, and he's so whatever, and then that would be oh, so his father's death inspired him to avenge him or whatever. But that's the furthest I could see it impacting him in the future.
I agree with both of you, and to go back to what Harv was saying, I can almost see this as being a Mikasa type revelation, where she has to deal with some sort of family connection issue, or she has to deal with learning something about herself. And I hope it doesn't go the route that her revelations usually go, which is something happens that we learn about her, we gloss over it, and then never talk about it again.
I'm glad we never talked about her Ackerman realization with Levi and connections, because that's stupid.
But we probably will. That'll probably come up again.
That'll be the most boring...
It will be, but the point I'm getting at is that I don't want Aaron's comeback from this to be like that.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
I like your answer, and I liked the answer Harv gave about what he wanted to see from that, from a story perspective instead of character specific.
Yeah, it would be more interesting for Isayama to take it in a completely unexpected direction, which, again, I said I hope will happen, but I'm not too sure it will, because we've seen this sort of thing before with, as you say, characters like Mikasa, and Eren himself has had, such things like this happen already occasionally, and it's just becoming a repeatable thing that needs to be, the formula needs to be changed, like I said.
Well put.
Yep.
Scotty, I want you to read the next question.
Regarding Erwin, this is my... That's a question.
Yes, it is a question.
Alright.
I need to hear this.
Yes,
regarding Erwin, does my poor blonde baby boy need a big squishy hug or what? I'm sorry, Stiller. Said I had to ask this question so that you could hear Scotty read it aloud. My poor blonde baby boy. I don't even understand what this
Thank you.
Why would he call him a poor blonde baby boy? What?
Thank you, Cooney Bob.
That's not even... Okay.
It turned out better than I could have ever hoped.
Horrible.
Thank you, Cooney Bob.
Horrible. It says, but seriously, do you feel that we're going to see a more self-doubting, cautious, regretful Erwin from now on? Was this a temporary blip? I think that this is essentially going to impact him very little, maybe, because he'll rebound from it. He's a character that
he won't be kept down by that. He'll rebound from this.
He keeps to his convictions and his morals and his thought pattern, and he's going to be for humanity. He's questioning whether his current action was for humanity, but whether or not he's fighting for humanity is not in question.
Let me put it this way. I think Erwin's resolve will help him come back and rebound, bounce back from this, in the same way that I believe Annie will. I believe they have equal amounts of, let's say, passion towards what they want to get, what they're after.
I don't even know what it is, Franny. But okay, last one. Well, not last one. Two more, but
You want to read that question again one more time, just so I can hear it again?
It's already deleted. I can't get it.
Oh, I can fix that. Here you go. There you go.
Can't. It's already deleted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
I deleted it immediately as you posted back.
Final question: Will Stiller drop the series if mind wipes are confirmed?
And then I put in yes.
Oh, that was you who put in yes.
Yes.
So the question is,
no, he'll do more than that.
Will I drop the series if mind wipes are confirmed?
Not only will he will drop a brick on Isayama's head when he finds him.
The basement?
After.
When I go down to the basement?
No,
do you have a basement?
What he will do is he will drop a brick on, like, a button to activate nuclear weapons to destroy the known universe.
True.
That's what he will do.
So here's the answer.
But Zachley will survive, mind you.
How dare you? Okay, anyway, to answer that question, I will strongly consider it. I will sit and I will think and I will go, man, that's not cool. And then I will go, alright, well, I've been here for like 2 years and a half now, so I can't just go because of that.
Disband a cast on time.
I can't just drop it I can't leave at a drop of a hat like that, because I'm too involved in it now. I can't just drop it and leave. And on top of that, Annie's gonna come back eventually. So if mind wipes are confirmed in the meantime, I still have to be here. I won't be happy, but I'll be here.
For me, I mean, personally, I wouldn't drop it at this point, come whatever, because it's, like you say, we're too far in now. I'll see it through to the end, however poor it gets. I'll see it through to the end.
That's true. Scotty?
Yeah, I'm very against, just as much against, and wishing that it won't happen, the mind wipe theory, as Stiller you are. However, I'm not as against it to the point where if it occurs, I will be so against the series, because even if there's 0.0001% chance that Isayama can explain away any ill intent and feelings I have towards this theory, I still owe it to the series to look at it from an objective point of view until the time where it has been explained well enough that I know if I will like it or not. Because I owe it at least to the series. And also, if the mind wipe only occurs, to one person, which you have to really, understand that person, and, it takes a while, and it drains you. Maybe they, nerf the power, so it's not well, then she can mind wipe everybody.
Mind wipe is OP.
Yeah, mind wipe OP, please nerf. So, if they make it in a certain way, I wouldn't like it, but I may not hate it. And if I would hate it, I may not despise it. There are ways to alleviate the amount of suck that the mind wipe would be. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. I've always said that I think the mind wipe theory will continue, probably forever, to be the one thing that will be the jump the shark moment. You know what I mean? If there's anything that could happen, that will be the one where the show's quality will start to decline when it happens.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah, sure.
Now that we've answered all of the questions, we've beaten the shit out of this chapter multiple times, I think we're about ready to close shop. But before we do that, Harv, we have you on as a guest. You have a YouTube channel where you do reviews.
I do. And actually, I'm glad you brought it up, because I have a new review coming pretty soon.
Oh, give us the scoop. Give us the scoop.
I'm partially written it. I'm about a page and a half in to my review of Kill la Kill, which I just watched.
Ooh, I can't wait to see that one. Oh my god!
It's a controversial topic. A lot of people love it. A lot of people bash it no end. So, and I had a friend telling me to watch it over and over again. So we sat 2 weekends ago, and I watched the whole thing through on Netflix. Basically in a day.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
That bodes well for that you liked it, I think. If you got
Well, I didn't Well, he loved it, and he was
don't spoil
yeah,
your
I'm
review.
not. He loved it, and he said it's probably his favorite anime that he's ever watched.
Ooh.
And so I thought I'll give it a go. And yeah, I won't spoil any of my review because that's for the review. But yeah,
Would you recommend I watch it as someone who hasn't seen it?
Do you know anything about it?
Not a single thing.
Because that's the best way to be. The best way to watch it is completely unassuming.
Will I go out a bit?
But yeah,
Well, there's a tie he could draw some enjoyment from if Scotty, if you're familiar with Guren Lagann.
I am not.
Okay.
See, I am not. I had never seen Guren Lagann, so it's a new experience for me. It was completely new. But yeah, I'll save my opinions for my review.
I'm very much looking forward to this review because I also watched Kill la Kill. So
out of
year.
interest, without me stating my opinions, what were your opinions on it? Just in brief, just short.
I was about to ask.
I had a kind of mixed feeling about Kill la Kill because it was a lot of fun.
Yes, right,
jokes,
okay.
The jokes were great, and the plot wasn't meant to be taken seriously, I don't think.
Okay, hold on. Can we just say there is one character that I want to murder over and over and over again, forever?
Is the blonde girl?
Mako. The goddamn comic relief character.
Really? Wow. I am shocked. Because I would not have guessed
She's
that.
the single worst thing. Oh god. Where to begin? She's just not... no, because Nui, the blonde girl...
That's the one that I was thinking of.
She is a really good villain. She's extremely good as a villain. I don't want to get into major discussion about this here.
Yeah, as far as it goes, there were some characters I liked, some characters I didn't like, but I didn't take the show seriously at all.
That's the way it's meant to be played.
I didn't believe the plot was worth looking at whether it was good or not, just because, it's not that kind of show. So I had a lot of fun with it. There were some things that I couldn't get over, and overall I thought it was.
Well, without spoiling anything, such as okay. Well, I'll save my opinions for my review, which you can find on my channel, which I'm sure
it will be linked in the description.
Kind enough to link in the description to my channel.
For the YouTube channel, we will link to his channel. So you can watch that review. Hopefully, do you know if by the time this goes up, if the review will be out, or are you still working on it?
I'm still writing it at the moment because I started writing it and I've not written much on it for about a week now. My plan is tomorrow, for what is today now, it's 7 a.m., to get working on it more. So I was
going to say, also, would you want to verbally say your YouTube channel so that people who also listen on SoundCloud can just type it in and find you?
I just don't know whether it's easy to find because I have a stupidly awkward name. Let me just check on YouTube and see if it's easy enough to find. But the name of my channel is just Destiny Reviews. It's all one word. And it's... yeah. But the thing is, when you type in Destiny Reviews, YouTube decides it's going to automatically separate it into Destiny Reviews. You just get a million reviews of Destiny, so you're gonna have to click the bit that's like search instead for Destiny reviews.
Okay.
As a whole, it's awkward.
For the listeners, if you type in Destiny reviews without a space, it'll say showing results for Destiny space reviews. So it'll switch it. If you click,
you don't want to do that.
Destiny reviews with no space, he is the first link.
Yes.
If you have not seen his review on Attack on Titan, you should go watch it, because it is really well done, and it's a very interesting perspective. So it's a good watch for any of our listeners.
Thank you. And I owe a lot of the views on that video, and my others to Reddit, really, especially for the Attack on Titan review. I owe it to the subreddit, because that would still be on like 20 views. No one would have seen it. Just me refreshing it to see how many views there were. But yeah, my review of Kill la Kill should be up. I'm aiming for within the next week, hopefully. So within a week of today. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right. That sounds pretty sweet to me. I can't wait to see the Kill la Kill review. I'm excited now. But
why, thank you.
With that in mind, This has been the Chapter 62 edition of the Cast on Titan, and we will see you guys next month.
Yep. See ya.
See you guys later.
Goodbye. That's good.
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.